Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
The Storm Pirates by Drinor. What if Luffy never ate the Gomu Gomu no Mi? Instead, he devours the Arashi Arashi no Mi, the Storm fruit, gaining the power of tempests, lightning, and wind itself. With the power of the storm in his hands, Monkey D. Luffy will turn the world upside down and forge a new legend as the captain of the Storm Pirates. Big shout out to the warlords of this channel: Throat Punch, Rodarius Jones, Native Warrior, Claude Lefrace, Neo-Esker 23, Derek Dowdy, Zazu Syaz, Abdul Rauf Ali, N3WT, What If Lord, Black Money Young Leon, Garrick Russell, Case Clark, KSGPL4YZ, and Brian McKenzie. You know who you are. Want to stand among the warlords? Join the channel membership and show your support. Adios.
Tomorrow. Luffy, as Luffy's fingers clasped around the succulent piece of meat, he could feel the juices oozing out, tantalizing his taste buds even before the morsel reached his mouth. Without bothering to savor the flavor or even chew, he swallowed it whole, letting out a satisfied grunt as he did so. Meanwhile, the sun had risen majestically over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. As he looked around, he saw Vivi engaged in a heated discussion with Nami and Negico, their hands gesturing wildly as they spoke. Zoro, on the other hand, was nursing a bottle of booze, his eyes half closed in contentment, and Sanji was busy looking at the female chef of the castle instead of Nami, which was quite surprising, the chef blushing from his gaze. Luffy smiled, looking at his crew. He figured this would be an excellent opportunity to introduce their new crewmate. As Luffy was about to clear his throat, signaling that he was about to speak, the silence of the room was suddenly interrupted by the sound of the door bursting open. In the doorway stood Igaram, a trusted advisor and loyal friend, his left hand clutching a bunch of papers while his face remained as pale as snow. Vivi noticed the distress on Igaram's face and quickly rose from her chair, her heart pounding with concern. Igaram, taking a deep breath to steady himself, then began to spread out a series of papers on the table in front of the crew of pirates that had gathered in the room. As he did so, Vivi couldn't help but notice the look of shock and disbelief that crossed each of their faces as they took in the contents of the doughnuts. "They put bounties on your heads," Igaram exclaimed, his voice shaking with emotion. "What's the meaning of this?" Vivi exclaimed, closing her mouth with one hand, seeing the wanted posters of her friends, a new one for Negico as well. The crew was silent. Luffy grabbed his poster to get a closer look, same for Sanji, Zoro, and Nami, who were silent. Taking the silence as a bad sign, Vivi approached her friends. "I'm really sorry, I didn't Luffy and Zoro burst out laughing, soon followed by the rest. Vivi was now confused, and so was Igaram. Luffy couldn't contain his excitement as he proudly flaunted his bounty to his fellow crew members. "Look at my bounty, everyone. This is amazing," he exclaimed, his voice booming with enthusiasm. His friends couldn't help but smile at his playful nature. Nami simply rolled her eyes, but even she couldn't deny the thrill of their recent success. Monkey D. Luffy dead or alive 356.000.000 berries. "That's quite a bounty, Captain. You now must be the rookie with the highest bounty," Negico pointed out. Roronoa Zoro dead or alive 199.000.000 berries. Zoro smirked at the bounty and especially seeing the pervert's bounty. Sanji's eyes narrowed as he fiercely clenched his teeth, feeling the cigarette between them snap in half, a small trail of smoke dissipating into the air. He was boiling with anger, feeling as if he could spit flames like a dragon from his mouth. His hands shook with fury as he tightly grasped his own wanted poster, the edges crinkling under the pressure of his grip, almost tearing apart. Sanji, the black leg, dead or alive 139.696.969 berries. Nami smiled at her new bounty and had a new picture, too. It was her using her golden wings against Baroque works. Nami, the crimson flame, dead or alive 77.000.000 berries. Nijiko looked worried, not by the bounty but by her picture. Nami leaned to get a good look. Good first bounty. Nami commented but noticed that Nijiko didn't react to her. Nijiko dead or alive 41.000.013 berries. Look at me. Captain Usopp strikes again. Usopp shouted, showing his bounty to the others. Usopp, the sniper, dead or alive 53.000.000 berries. Chopper gasped at his own bounty, his little hands shaking in fear, but a part of him wondered how Doctorine would react when she found out. He hoped she would be proud of him. Chopper dead or alive 29.000.000 berries. The pirate crew started celebrating for the new bounties, leaving a completely confused Igaram and Vivi. How dare they put bounties on you? You saved my country. Why would they do this? She shouted, interrupting them with an angry face, her face red. She felt like tearing the posters to pieces. Luffy stopped whatever he was doing to turn to her. This is a pirate's life, princess. Once we became pirates, we accepted the risk of marines, bounty hunters, and other pirate crews chasing us. We might have been the ones to stop Crocodile, but the world government doesn't want to lose public face. Someone else will take credit for what we did. Luffy explained calmly, with Zoro, Sanji, and Nami nodding along. Vivi looked conflicted. She understood what he meant, but still, she had hoped for her friends to be rewarded instead of punished because that's what this was to her, punishment. She felt a reassuring hand on her shoulder and looked up to see Luffy's beaming face. His infectious grin and unwavering confidence were like a beacon of hope in the dark, turbulent sea of her thoughts. "Don't worry, princess," he said, his voice full of warmth and encouragement. "We know what we are doing." His words were like a balm to her troubled soul, and Vivi couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope and confidence stir within her. With a reluctant but genuine smile, she nodded in agreement. "With the new bounties, our total worth as a crew is 901 million berries," Nami calculated, with a bright smile and berry eyes on her face. "Greedy witch," Zoro murmured under his breath, drinking some beer. After a minute, things calmed down, and Luffy decided to introduce the new crew member. Clearing his throat, everyone's attention turned to him and saw his serious face. They knew this was important. "Everyone, I want to introduce our new crew member," he announced, making everyone confused since they all knew Vivi well by now. "You can come in," Luffy said. The second door of their chamber opened, revealing the beautiful woman, Nico Robin. Vivi gasped, her eyes widening, as Robin simply smirked deviously, stepping inside, which made her look deadlier and more attractive. "Long time no see, princess. Everyone, I want to introduce our new crew member," he announced, making everyone confused since they all knew Vivi well by now. "You can come in," Luffy said. The second door of their chamber opened, revealing the beautiful woman, Nico Robin. Vivi gasped, her eyes widening, as Robin simply smirked deviously, stepping inside, which made her look deadlier and more attractive. "Long time no see, princess." As soon as Nico Robin made her grand entrance into the room, all eyes were on her, and the rest of the crew members, except for Luffy, sprang up from their seats in a state of heightened alertness. The air was thick with tension, and Zoro's hand instinctively went to the pommel of his swords as he braced himself for a potential attack, but his restraint held him back from making a move. Nami, on the other hand, spread out her wings in defense, mirroring Zoro's caution, but she, too, refrained from striking. Sanji, the chivalrous gentleman, narrowed his eyes slightly at the enigmatic woman, his guard up in case of any danger, but he, too, showed admirable restraint by not acting on impulse. Usopp screamed in fear, as did Chopper, who decided to hide behind Zoro's leg. Usopp's fear was palpable as he aimed his trembling revolver at Nico Robin, who stood calmly in the distance. Despite the chaos, Nijiko appeared unfazed, her eyebrow raised as if she knew Robin had been lurking in the shadows all along. As Vivi saw Robin standing there, her first reaction was that her face turned pale momentarily, like a ghostly apparition had appeared before her. But then, as the reality of the situation set in, her face turned bright red almost instantly from anger. She couldn't believe Robin had the nerve to show up here after everything that had happened. Her fists clenched tightly at her sides, ready to strike out at him. What are you doing here?" she shouted angrily, trying to get to Robin, but Igaram stopped her. She struggled against his grip, her eyes blazing with fury. As Robin stood there, a smirk formed on her lips, and her eyes sparkled with amusement. She was thoroughly enjoying the current situation, relishing the fact that she seemed to be one step ahead of the princess. With a sly expression on her face, she spoke up, and her words dripped with sarcasm and confidence. "Didn't you hear the captain?" she said, raising an eyebrow. "I'm the new crew member." Her tone was casual, as if she was stating the most obvious thing in the world. The princess, on the other hand, looked taken aback, her expression a mixture of surprise and confusion. "Like hell. You will never be a crew member," Vivi shouted, pointing her finger at her. It was taking everything for her not to try and attack the woman. Upon hearing that, Luffy's facial expression immediately shifted into a deep frown, his usual cheerful demeanor replaced by a serious one. He raised his hand to adjust his beloved straw hat, which had slid slightly to the right, and he took a deep breath before speaking. With a confident and clear voice, he declared to everyone present, "Actually, she is." As he spoke, his eyes remained hidden behind the brim of his hat. This made some raise an eyebrow at him. Upon hearing that, Zoro sat down without a care, his hands no longer on the pommel of his swords. Nami's wings, which were made from her devil fruit, began to flutter and then disappeared into the air like delicate petals in the wind. Sanji slowly slid a sleek cigarette between his lips, flicking his lighter open with a satisfying click and holding it up to the tip until a small flame emerged, igniting the end of the cigarette. With a deep inhale, he savored the smoky taste and felt the nicotine rush through his veins as he exhaled a cloud of thick smoke into the warm air. She couldn't believe what she had just heard, and her neck jerked to face Luffy, hoping it was all just a misunderstanding. However, Luffy's lack of response and distant demeanor made it clear that this was no joke. With a look of confusion and concern plastered on her face, Vivi opened her mouth to ask what was going on. "What do you mean, she? Vivi?" Luffy interrupted her with a cold tone. His cold and emotionless voice cut through the air, sending shivers down everyone's spine. "Last I checked, I am the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. If she weren't here because I invited her, then she wouldn't even be able to pass the gates of the castle before I detected her. She's here because I invited her, and I will explain why. Are we clear?" Luffy said seriously, his tone leaving no room for discussion. Vivi had a downcast look on her face before reluctantly nodding her head. Robin was a little impressed by Luffy's voice. In one moment, he acted like a goofball, but when necessary, he acted like an actual captain who took things seriously. Robin sat down near Nami. Everyone's attention was on Luffy, who cleared his throat. The captain quickly explained what had happened between him and Robin. After defeating the warlord, she cared for him, excluding the part about finding the fruit and the poneglyph. Once he explained everything, Vivi gasped loudly, her face clearly showing that she didn't believe Robin was on their side, but she decided not to voice it out. She understood that Luffy was the captain. "Very well, now," he began. "I want to know if anyone here has objections to Robin becoming part of the crew?" His eyes scanned each member of his beloved team, taking in their expressions and carefully considering their thoughts. As the captain, Luffy knew that what he said ultimately went, but he valued the opinions and perspectives of his crew above all else. He refused to simply go along with a decision without first taking into account the thoughts and feelings of those who mattered most to him. "I don't really care, Captain. I trust your decision," Zoro said with a little shrug, leaning back against the chair and eyeing Nico Robin carefully. "Well, it was about time we had a new female pirate on our ship," Nami commented with a little smile. "Robin-chan." Sanji drooled like a dog at Robin's figure. The latter laughed in amusement. Nijiko simply shrugged her shoulders, she didn't care much. The others didn't say anything against it, and Vivi was mainly quiet. "Well, that settles it." Luffy stood up from his chair, and so did everyone else. "Nico Robin, you're a new member of our crew," Luffy said with a loud laugh. The others, except Vivi, welcomed her. Seeing that she wasn't supportive, Luffy walked up to her before touching her shoulder, making her look up at him. "How about we take a walk around the city?" Luffy suggested with a broad smile. Vivi found herself smiling back. Despite everything, Luffy could always make her smile. "Alright, Luffy, Later Luffy and Vivi meandered along Alubarna's main street, bustling with activity as shopkeepers sold their wares, hurriedly stored away shipments, occasionally shooed away pesky children, and in general, did a thriving business catering to the throngs of people who daily came to the regional capital to work or just to sightsee. The two of them were among the sightseers and well recognized enough that people gave them room to pass. Even so, every now and then, they bumped into someone, and they would exchange apologies. She smiled at Luffy and leaned into him, her arm snaking its way around his waist. There was one thing different about this trip. She had her lover, Captain, with her, and she didn't have to watch her back. Even so, when she quickly looked back down the wide roadway, she thought she spotted the curl of a wig sticking out past a clothing rack. That particular wig could only belong to one person. She chuckled and said to Luffy, "Poor Igaram. He's not going to be enjoying himself today." She felt the air leave him as he groaned out a gusty sigh. "He's trying to keep an eye on you, isn't he? Come on, Luffy, forget about him. I saw through his disguises when I was a kid, but he never tried to take me away or anything. He's just his usual worried self," Vivi announced. Vivi looked back. She couldn't see any time. Either he had actually gotten better at hiding, or he'd given up and gone to a cafe to relax. Oh well. Time to sample the wares. Luffy, look at these beautiful beaded necklaces. Igaram warily eyed the babbling throngs of people as they strolled about the main alley in Yuba. Several bazaars down, he could see Luffy and Vivi walking at a leisurely pace, and nobody had attacked them yet, so far. That hadn't stopped him from tailing them, hiding behind anything he could spot to stay out of the keen eyes of his charges. Currently, he was secreted behind a clothing rack, having just darted there in the nick of time as he spotted Vivi's head turning. She turned back and didn't show any hesitation or concern. Good, he was undetected still. As he meandered past the sword bazaar, the tall salesman was barking his sales pitch. "And for our special of the day, this scimitar, forged in the metalworks right here and personally tested by Her Royal Highness Vivi." Igaram had never wanted to roll his eyes so hard before. But now he was secreted behind a palm tree, trying to keep watch on Vivi as she handed necklaces back and forth with Luffy. Her smile, so wide and unforced, was a heartening contrast to those years before when she exuded grimness in her very aura as Miss Wednesday in the Baroque works. A hand on his shoulder nearly gave him heart failure again as he nearly jumped into the air, whirling round to face his assassin, who wore a hood. "Wait," he hissed, "Your Highness, what in the name of?" Cobra put his finger to his lips and smiled. "Come, Igaram. Let's sample the drinks and foods this fine city has to offer us." Igaram's shoulders slumped. He dragged his feet leaving, but he couldn't exactly disobey the orders of his king. Shortly after, in a partially shaded corner of an open-air cafe, the two men had small cups of strong coffee prepared with plenty of cream. Cobra's hood hadn't attracted too much attention. Igaram was in the shade fortuitously offered by the overhanging shop awning, but Cobra was in the direct sunlight facing Igaram. Cobra took a sip of his coffee and chuckled. "I think being in the same city as my daughter and her lover is enough, Igaram, don't you?" Igaram sighed. She did carry off her part well in the Baroque works. But we were attacked, I nearly died, and from her reports, she faced dangers the likes of which I cannot conceive. And, well, I couldn't always be there for her. Either I had my own duties as Mr. 8 Feet, or I just couldn't be there. Well, now I can, sire. Igaram, Cobra said. He leaned in. Are you forgetting that we are talking of the same young woman who infiltrated the Baroque works with limited help from you, who later struggled against mounting odds to save this kingdom, and who has managed to keep herself in good condition since she's a good warrior? Igaram looked away and said nothing. We are at peace, my friend. You don't have to worry anymore. Igaram ran his hand along the table's surface, feeling the grain of the wood as he searched within himself. Finally, he blurted, the truth. I feel useless. I know I don't need to stand guard over her anymore. I know the Baroque works is a vanished memory. And yet, if I can't do this, what am I supposed to do, sire? Cobra chuckled. Well, then, I suppose I need a bodyguard today while we enjoy lunch. Heaven knows when a coffee cup may attack me. Igaram couldn't stop the small smile on his face from turning into a giant grin as he let out a full-throated chuckle at the king's humor. I suppose I am taking myself too seriously, sire, he mused. Cobra just raised his hand for the server and began ordering some sandwiches and local fruits. Vivi fingered the beads around her neck. I like the pearl green ones, I think. She turned to the shopkeeper and said, "How much?" Luckily, he was one of the few unfazed by the princess herself offering to buy baubles and said, "For that? 2,000 belly." "Ha! Surely you must mean 1,400. She had mastered the art of haggling as a disguised commoner, and it wasn't much different on Alabasta, she knew. The bones of my dead mother themselves would rise and strangle me if I were to dare sell for less than 1,900, Highness. Luffy looked upon in perplexed amusement as the two finally settled on 1,700 belly but spotted his opportunity as soon as she began rummaging around in her belt bag. He pulled a stack of bills out of his pocket and quickly counted off the notes, then handed them to the shopkeeper. As they walked away, Vivi hissed, "I had the money." "I know." Luffy raised his hands. "Vivi, I just wanted to be able to buy you one thing you liked today." She huffed, "All right. But I don't want or need you to be some kind of doting house husband or boyfriend." "But you're right." She stopped and looked at him, heedless of the crowd milling around them. "It is the first real gift from you I have if you think about it." She fingered the necklace again. "Well then, I suppose I should be flattered by what we did last night," Vivi said archly, her eyebrow raised. "Not here, Vivi. Please." Luffy hurriedly began brushing imaginary dust off his pants. "Fine." Vivi spotted the shoe shop and pointed. "Look, come with me." She linked hands with him and pulled him along, deftly avoiding oncoming pedestrians on the way to the shop. The owner of the sandals shop had a couple of apprentices working sandals behind a counter a few feet inside the tented bazaar, and he himself stammered, "Greetings, Your Highness and Captain Luffy." Vivi grinned. "And good day to you, sir." She pointed at Luffy's sandals. They were still rather well kept, but they had a bit of wear and tear on them to the practiced eye. "Now, do you think Captain Luffy ought to be walking around in these?" A glint of amusement showed in his eye, but his face betrayed nothing as he said, "Well now, Highness, that's certainly a good point. We should get you seated here, Excellency, and examine them." And before Luffy could protest, he was bodily seated in the raised chair, his feet bare of sandals as the shoemaker hemmed and hawed and made much of every minute scratch in Luffy's old sandals. "But I don't need new sandals, tell him, Vivi, please," Luffy said, a doleful expression on his face. He made as if to rise out of the seat. She pointed. "Sit." Luffy sat back with a groan. "You're going to get brand new sandals befitting your station, and I will buy them for you, and that's that." It was not lost on Vivi that it could take a while for the right-fitting sandals to appear, and the shoemaker was happy to play along with her in the matter. "Oh, Anon?" she asked of the shoemaker. "Would you terribly mind telling me if I can get some good riding boots fitted for me as well?" She had to press her lips even tighter together to keep from laughing out loud at Luffy's audible groan. Soon Luffy and Vivi were done in the shop and found themselves in a private area of the city. Luffy suddenly stopped Vivi in her tracks. "I know you're not happy with Robin being in our crew, but trust me, she's a good person," Luffy said, looking into her eyes and grabbing her hand. The princess ignored his eyes for a second before looking back at them. Vivi took a deep breath. "I will follow you, Luffy. I guess I was just angry when I saw her, my captain," she said the last part seductively, earning a kiss from Luffy. "We will leave tomorrow morning. Are you sure about this?" Luffy asked after pulling away and wanting to make sure that Vivi had no regrets. "I'm Luffy. I want to travel the seas with you," Vivi exclaimed, holding him close to her. Her eyes looked up at the skies. Soon, she would be out there with her friends, in the vast sea. "Tomorrow. We are almost there. Don't stop moving," Luffy shouted, his voice barely audible over the sound of the rushing wind as the duck squad sped through the seemingly endless desert. The sun had just begun to rise, casting a warm orange glow over the vast expanse of sand that stretched out before them. The crew had left the Tago, shrouded in darkness and secrecy, determined to reach their ship before the sun rose too high in the sky. As they rowed, the crew members gritted their teeth against the stinging sand that whipped at their faces, their eyes fixed firmly on the horizon. They had been riding for what felt like hours, the only sound the steady thump of the duck squad's feet against the sand. But finally, they could see it, the gleaming white sail of their ship, just visible over the crest of the next dune. Luffy's heart leapt with excitement, and he urged the duck squad to go faster. "We're almost there," he cried, his voice full of hope and determination. Vivi was riding alongside Nami and Nijiko, avoiding Robin as much as possible. Her eyes were looking forward, but her thoughts were on her father. After telling her father and Chaka that she wanted to talk with them, she smiled, trying to hide her inner conflicts from them, and walked up to them. "Father, I want to follow Luffy," Vivi claimed, feeling her heart beating faster. "But my princess, please, Chaka," Vivi interrupted him, her eyes returning to look at her father again. "I have thought of this long and hard. I want to follow my captain. I know it is selfish of me. I know you might say I should stay here, but I want to do what I want. I want to travel the whole sea and be free. One day, I will return, I promise." Love over duty, Cobra thought bitterly, remembering his grandfather's words. What is honor compared to a woman's love? What is duty against the feel of a newborn son in your arms? Or the memory of a brother's smile? Wind and words. Wind and words. We are only human, and the gods have fashioned us for love. That is our great glory and our great tragedy. Vivi felt her eyes welling up, and the image of going merry slowly appeared on the horizon. "Well, father, Chaka. I suppose this is it." "Yes, I suppose it is Vivi-sama," Chaka said. "Chaka, thank you for helping me all this time, and—" The tears began to form, but she held them back. "Thank you for everything else you have done for me. I will never forget you." She stepped forward and gave him a big hug, probably the last one she would ever give him. Chaka returned the hug and stepped back so that Cobra could say his part. "Vivi, ever since you were little, I knew that you were destined for something other than this life. When you got into that fight alongside Luffy, it confirmed my feelings. It was always there, that will to explore this vast sea. You just needed someone to give you that little push in the right direction. The Straw Hat Boy gave you that push, and now you are going out to fulfill that destiny. Tell him I said thank you. You will always be the daughter I have always wanted to have, and even though you won't be staying here, I will always love and remember you as the princess of the greatest country on the Grand Line." This was almost too much for her to bear, and the tears were now streaming down her cheeks. "Father, I. Without words coming to mind, she simply threw herself into her father's arms. "I won't ever forget you, father. I will always love you." As the salty tears streamed down Vivi's cheeks, she watched them fall, one by one, until they finally reached the ship, going merry. The gentle breeze swept over her, causing her hair to dance and sway in the wind as she took one last look at her beloved Alabasta. She gazed out at the vast deserts that stretched out before her, the only home she had ever known, and felt a pang of sadness at the thought of leaving it all behind. But with a deep breath, she lifted her head and made her way on board the Going Merry, her heart filled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. As she stepped onto the ship, she knew that her life was about to change forever. She was no longer just Vivi, the princess of Alabasta. She was now a pirate of the Straw Hats, ready to embark on a journey full of adventure, danger, and uncertainty. No regrets. They all get changed as they sit around the medical ward when Nami springs her idea on the crew. "Tonight?" Usopp repeats. "That's right," Nami confirms. "Well, I think it's appropriate, too, since we no longer have a reason to stay here." Zoro agreed, and Usopp shivered as that was the same thing Nami said as he sat leaning against the bed by his feet and Chopper. "Yeah, I'm also worried about the Marine's actions," Sanji adds. "Okay, then. You decide, Luffy," Usopp tells him. "Okay, we'll leave after we have some more Alabasta dishes again." Luffy decides, thinking with his stomach, again. "We're leaving right away, idiot," Usopp snaps at him, bonking him on the head. "Idiot. You didn't have to hit me." Luffy whines as he cradles his head when a soldier comes into the room, holding a transponder snail. "There's a transponder snail communication for you," he announces. "Transponder snail communication? From who?" Nami asks him. "From someone named Bon," he answers. "Bon? Who's that?" Sanji asks him. "No one knows him, but he insists he's your friend, so," he replies. "Our friend?" Usopp questions as Sanji gets up and answers. "Hello. Hi there, it's me. Me." The voice laughs, and Sanji hangs up, but it starts ringing again. "What? Shut up." Sanji snaps at the ringing transponder snail, but Luffy grabs it and answers. Hey, it's you, huh? What do you want from us? Luffy demands, his eyes narrowed slightly. Oh, that voice must be Straw Hat, right? You're strong. I was so surprised. Oh, yeah. Please don't call me Mr. 2. If the Marines catch this signal, I'll be in trouble. Mr. 2 warns them. You just said it yourself, Chopper exclaims. Just tell us what you want, Zoro demands. Oh, yeah. I took your ship, he announces with a broad grin. The crew screamed in shock. Hearing that, Luffy's grip around the speaker almost broke it. If you touch my ship, I will kill you, Luffy promised, his voice turning dark. You son of a bitch. This isn't a joking matter. Where are you now? Usopp asks him, pointing at the transponder snail. On your ship. He answers as if that helps. Of all others, Sanji grits his teeth in anger. No. Gee, we're friends, right? He laughs and tells them where he is on their ship. He's at the upper reaches of the Sandora River, Luffy confirms. Can we trust him? Sanji asked the captain, who had a thoughtful look before answering. We became friends one time, but, Luffy muses. In your case, you may be able to make friends with him again, which is scary, Zoro mutters. But we have no choice but to go, Chopper points out. He's right. He has our ship. Nejico agrees with the reindeer. If he tries to trick us, then we'll just kill him. The others nodded in agreement. Now that it's decided, let's get ready quickly, Luffy announces. Now Vivi's tears rolled down her cheeks. They finally reached Going Merry. A gentle breeze hit her hair dancing with the wind. With one last look at her country, at the vast deserts, at her one and only home. She walked on board of Going Merry, as a pirate of Straw Hats, no regrets. She felt a hand on her shoulder, and turning, she saw Luffy looking at her with concern. I'm fine, Luffy. I already made the decision, Vivi said, trying to sound strong and convincing, happy to see that Luffy cared so much for her. He smiled reassuringly before they walked to their ship. As soon as they walk up to the deck, they're greeted by Bon, who is doing a ridiculous dance. Hello, my friends. He greeted them with a large grin on his face. For a moment, the crew was silent, wondering where they should dispose of him, when Luffy stepped forward with a welcoming smile. Welcome back, Bon. It's good to have you here, Luffy said with a broad smile. Soon they both started dancing together as if they were closest friends. Robin giggles at the crew's reaction. That idiot, they all thought, but they should have probably expected that from Luffy. As they were sailing away, they soon noticed multiple marine ships approaching. Suddenly the Marines fired their cannons at them with spikes instead of cannonballs. Damn it, shoot cannonballs, Nami grumbles as they're almost hit from either side. Serious? Gimme a break, Bon cries out. If we keep taking these iron spears on the ship's bottom, it'll be just a matter of time before we sink, Sanji points out, and the Marines fire again. Do something, you guys, Nami snaps at them. It takes all our effort just to protect one side, Sanji argues. One ship against 8 isn't a fair fight. If this was close combat, we'd have a better chance. Whether we chase them or run away, they'll never change this formation. Zoro warns them as the marine ships stand in pairs around them. The one on the left. Where do I know him from? Sanji ponders to himself. I've finally found them. That annoying violent cook and his gang. I'll sink them here today. I powered up, the first voice vows, yeah, right. Now, stare at this ring. I'll finally prove today that I'm not a weirdo. The second voice mutters as everyone runs around, trying to fix the ship, and Usopp aims the cannon toward the ship and fires. 1. 2. Jan. The cannonball hits the ship, smashing it to pieces as it falls onto the next one. Brother. The second ship falls into the water. Whoa. Usopp mutters to himself, just as surprised. Usopp, did you do that? Amazing, Luffy beams at the shocked sniper. Oh, okay. T was just as I calculated. That's what happens to ships once I'm on the job. Usopp plays it off. Nosy, that was amazing. Good job. Bon congratulates him. The ships in the south sank. Now we can break through there in one shot. Bon Clay, there's trouble, one of his men shouts. What is it? Bon shouts back as the ship sails to their right. The black cage is here, he announces. Oh, no, Bon shrieks. What's going on? Luffy asks him. It's Black Cage, Hina. She's a captain at Marine headquarters, and this area is under her jurisdiction. She's a real pain. We'll hurry up and fly the coop, Bon explains. Yes, sir. Bon Clay, his men shout in agreement. Whoa, they're fast, Luffy exclaims as another cannon hits the water, rocking the ship. Rather, our ship is slowing down, Sanji snaps. 4 ships, Zoro alerts them, and they walk over, ready for a fight. We have no choice but to fight, huh? Sanji huffs as he stands with the crew. Alright, let's go, Luffy exclaims, and they go to fight but trip over a pile of iron spears. What's this? They snapped at Nami. Oh, that? Usopp said to keep them since we might be able to use them for something, Nami answers. They're in our way, Zoro exclaims in anger. We don't need them, Sanji growls. Then, should we ditch them? Luffy asks and begins throwing the iron spears away straight for the 4 marine ships behind them. Okay. Are we ready? He dusts his hands and looks over at his handiwork. Now is the chance. Let's go full speed ahead and shake them off, Nami yell, and the bots get out of the paddles and begin rowing as Chopper comes out, and Nami blows her whistle to keep the boys in line, and they soon come to clear seas. After an hour of sailing, it seemed they were safe. Looks like the Marines have stopped following us, Zoro states, and the others lie on the deck with their heads all through the railing bars, upset. We did shake them off, right? They all groan. Now that we are clear, I'm afraid this is where we depart, Bon said to the crew, mainly at Luffy, who arched an eyebrow. Where will you go? Luffy asked, tilting his head at the side, standing up, and walking up to him. Momo Island or Dressrosa. I heard both of them are places that welcome people like us, Bon said with a constant grin. His men nodded along. Good luck to you then. I hope we meet one day again, Luffy said, shaking hands with him. After saying goodbye to everyone, he apologized to the princess for his role on Alabasta. She told him just not to do anything like that again. Sanji Almond tried to hug him. Using a small boat of Going Merry, Bon and his crew of dancers sailed away, waving at Going Merry as they disappeared into the horizon. Later, I will miss my home, Vivi said sadly, looking at Alabasta slowly disappearing on the horizon. Don't be whiny. If you wanted to stay longer, you could have told us, Zoro tells her point blank. Ah, you're such a savage, Chopper cries. You're the worst, Nami snaps at him. Moss head. Sanji digs at him. 3-sword style, Luffy says. Hey, wait, Luffy. 3-sword style isn't an insult, Usopp points out. 4-sword style. Luffy changes it. The number isn't exactly the problem. Listen. Usopp tries to explain, but it won't work. Smoker, they escaped, Hina shouted, slamming her fists on the table. It was taking everything for Smoker not to grin, but he kept himself in control. Not the first time pirates have escaped us. We will live. I will capture them, Smoker said with an uncaring tone as he inhaled his 2 cigarettes and exhaled a puff of smoke. Hina glared at him and was ready even to yell if it wasn't for the transponder snail that suddenly started ringing. Smoker reached for the speaker, but Hina grabbed it before he could. Knowing he would be disrespectful, Captain Hina of Marine Headquarters, she said respectfully, still glaring at Smoker. Smoker wondered why they would call them again, but it seemed he got his answers right away when Hina's face went unusually pale. He is right here, she said with a shaky tone, handing him the speaker. Smoker narrowed his eyes suspiciously at how she was acting, but once he put the speaker next to his mouth. Captain Smoker, he said, this time holding himself from insulting whoever was on the other side. Captain Smoker, as we talked a few days ago, you're to arrive at Marine Headquarters for the medals. And we are happy to tell you that your chase of the Straw Hat is over. The man spoke, sounding like an old man that Smoker had never heard before. What? Why? Smoker asked, barely keeping his voice down. He didn't understand why they denied him the chance to keep chasing the Straw Hats. He was the pirate with the largest bounty of the worst generation. Due to his bounty and the risk he possesses, we decided that a more competent man was needed to capture him. Someone who will get the job done. The voice spoke. Smoker gulped, having an idea of who he was talking about, putting the speaker next to his mouth. Who is this man? Admiral Sakazuki. Luffy was sitting on his favorite seat, The figurehead of the Going Merry is Chopper, Sanji, and Usopp stands on his right, and Nami, Negico, Robin, and Vivi stand on his left as they look at their captain, who stares ahead at the horizon as Zoro stands on the other side of the ship by the kitchen, lifting weights. Rain? Zoro thought out loud as he stopped lifting weights and looked up as small pieces seemed to be falling down around them. It's not rain, Sanji reluctantly said as they moved down to the main deck. What is it? Usopp wonders, looking up to see something large heading straight toward them. No. Something's falling, Vivi shouted as she pointed up to the sky as a large ship came crashing towards them. What? They all shout as it comes crashing down into the water next to them, causing large waves from the impact. The ship rocks on the waves as more pieces continue to shower down on them. Hang on. Hold on to the ship. Zoro shouts at the whole crew over the loud noise as the waves crash around them. What? What is it? What is it? Nami cries out as pieces of debris keep falling from the sky. Dream? Yeah, this must be a dream. Usopp deludes himself as he and Chopper flies around and smacks their heads together. Hey, more stuff's falling. Be careful, Sanji shouts, and Vivi looks up too, seeing the smaller pieces of wood keep falling, but it seems to thin out. Turn the rudder. The rudder, Nami ordered Zoro as he held onto the mast. No way that'll work in these waves. Zoro snaps back at her, knowing the current condition they were in wasn't a good one. Luffy, protect the ship. It can't take this any longer, Sanji orders a smiling Luffy, who was enjoying this. Got it. Luffy agreed as he extended his open hand over the ship's railings. For a moment, nothing happened when a sudden push forced the entire ship to move right as if someone had suddenly pushed it. Good job. Robin praised, looking at the place where the ship was slowly sinking. Why the heck did a ship fall from the sky? Luffy questions, scratching the top of his head, and Vivi remembers something from one of her father's stories as she was growing up. How weird. Usopp shivers. There's nothing in the sky, Zoro notices. Oh man, the Grand Line is a crazy place. First, we see a ship graveyard inside a rainbow mist. And then a ship falls from the sky. Usopp shivers as he and Chopper cling to each other. They're just waiting for the next crazy thing to happen. What is this? Nami mutters, her face going pale, looking down at her old log pose. What's wrong, Nami? Luffy asks, being the first to notice her odd behavior. What are we gonna do? Our log pose is broken. It's stuck pointing upwards. Nami shouted at the heavens above. The others looked in shock to see that the log pose was indeed pointing upwards, except Robin and Negico, who were completely calm for some reason. That's not it. It was updated by an island with stronger magnetism. If the log pose needle is pointing upwards, that means a sky island has caught the log pose. Robin concludes and looks up with curiosity written all over her face. Sky Island? The others exclaim, besides Negico, who rolls her eyes. Vivi gasped, vividly remembering a woman with long blue hair telling her about the Sky Islands. What's that? Nami asks with skepticism. A floating island, Luffy beams. Did that ship and those bones fall from there? Usopp asks in fright. But I can't see anything resembling an island in the sky, Zoro argues as he looks up at the sky full of smaller clouds, his hand on his forehead, blocking the sun and trying to get a better look. That's not how it works. Robin points out, and the others all look at her. It's more like an ocean floating above our heads. A sea? Nami questions in disbelief, but Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper seem thrilled with the thought of the next adventure. I'm getting more and more confused, Sanji comments dryly, not really buying it. Yay! There's a sea with an island floating in the sky? Alright? Let's head there right away, Luffy cheers as he points up to the sky. Hey, guys! Turn the rudder upwards. Upwards rudder full. Usopp joins in, and Robin covers Luffy's mouth to stop them from spouting nonsense. In any case, you can't turn upwards, Captain. Sanji points out, inhaling his cigarette. To be honest, I've never seen the Sky Island, nor do I know much about it, Robin confesses, shrugging her shoulders. Yeah, an island or a sea can't float in the air. So the log pose really must be broken. Nami argues, and Vivi shakes her head, holding the side of her head. Flashes of a woman with blue hair pass through her eyes like a clap of thunder at night. No, navigator. Our concern right now should not be the log pose. It should be how we get to the sky. No matter what weird situations this ship gets caught up in or how panicked we get, we must not doubt the log pose. This is an ironclad rule. Robin pointed out, and she looked at her old log pose. What we should doubt is rather the common sense in our heads. There's definitely an island where it's pointing. Vivi, are you alright? Luffy asks, concerned. He had noticed her strange behavior, looking over at the princess, who stiffened slightly before turning to look at him. Nothing, Luffy. Just a little headache, Vivi said dismissively. Luffy looked a little dejected but decided not to pry on her business. What's that woman doing? Opening the coffin, Chopper gasps as he hides behind the mast with Nami, who keeps pouting at the log pose, and Robin pieces the skull back together. Can you learn something from that? Zoro asks with a raised eyebrow, looking at Robin intently. I don't know, she answers. You got strange interests, Nami exclaims from her hiding spot. A pretty woman and the dead now. That's an interesting combination, Sanji comments with a weird grin. Where's Luffy and Usopp? Zoro suddenly asks, and Nijiko simply points over at the broken ship the two morons were. Jump, Luffy. Vivi hears Usopp tell him, and Luffy jumps over to the other part of the ship. Okay. Luffy yells back. What are they doing now? Zoro asks, scratching the back of his head. Exploration, they said. Chopper answers, still hiding. Oh, restoration complete, Sanji announces, and Vivi looks over at the skull. The holes here are man-made, Robin points out, looking at it from up close. I see. Then this guy was pierced there and died, huh? Sanji guesses, sitting crossed-legged near the coffin. No, these are indications of medical treatment. It's craterization, isn't it, doctor? She asks the little reindeer with her beautiful smile. Yeah, in the past, they made holes in the skull in order to constrain a brain tumor. But that's a medical technique from very long ago. He confirms, getting a close look at the hole in the skull. That's right. It's been at least 200 years since he died. He was in his early 30s, he fell sick while traveling on the sea and died. The reason his teeth remained in good condition compared to his other bones is because tar was rubbed onto them. This custom is characteristic of some areas in South Blue. So considering history, that was a ship for an exploration party from the past. Robin explains and gets the book she brought with her, and flips to one of the pages. Here it is. The Saint Brice of Brice, a kingdom in the South Blue. It set sail 208 years ago. She shows them the picture, and it's almost the same. That's the same ship as the one that fell, Nami confirms, with her index finger on her chin. Come to think of it, it has a symbol like that. Zoro agrees, pointing at the said symbol. You can find out all that just by looking at bones? Nami asks Robin with an impressed look. Dead people tell no tales, but they do hold information. If the ship was for an exploration party, it should still hold various records and evidence, Robin points out. Yeah. But the ship sank in the sea, Nami said and looked over at the sinking ship. She rushes to the side. Luffy was at the sinking ship into the water, with Usopp standing on a submerging piece of wood. What are you guys doing? I found it, Luffy shouted instead of answering, grabbing Usopp by his shoulder, turning to lightning, and appearing at the main dock with Usopp, who was flabbergasted for a moment. Hey, everyone, I did it. I found something incredible. Look at this. He unrolls the piece of paper, which seems old as it has tears around the edges, though it seems crudely drawn, and Vivi remembers something similar, but she can't remember when. A map of the Sky Island. They all gasp in surprise, and Luffy hands it over to Nami, who looks over the map. Skypia. She reads over. See? Luffy grins as Nami rewards him with a kiss on the cheek, much to Sanji's annoyance. Alright, the Sky Island exists. It's a dream island. We can go to a dream island. A dream island. They cheer as they dance around the deck. Don't get so carried away. This only means it exists, nothing else, Nami says, and their mood dampens. Stop with that look. We still need to find a way up there. She punches into the side of the beaten mast angrily. Listen, Luffy, I'm telling you, we don't know how to get there. Nami, please treat the ship with care, Usopp mutters over her, shouting. You're right. What do you think we should do? Luffy asked her. Nami's cute when she's angry, too. Sanji coos as they watch the two talk. In any case, we can't move the ship forward this way. What we need now is information, as Robin said. If a huge ship like that really went to the sky, then there's definitely a way for this ship to go there as well. Let's somehow pull out whatever records remain in the ship, Nami reasoned. But the ship has completely sunk, Usopp points out. If it sank, then we'll salvage it, Nami grins, and Vivi shakes her head. Alright, Usopp and Luffy cheer, punching their palms. As if we could, Zoro snaps at them. What's salvage? Chopper asks Robin as he stands next to her as she sits on the steps. It means to pull up a sunken ship. But it won't work since that ship is too big, Robin tells him with a smile. But it seems Usopp has an idea as he starts tinkering with some of the barrels, making them into diving suits. Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy get into one each. Well, you really make us do reckless things. Luffy smirks from inside the makeshift diving suits. Nami, I'll be sure to find a clue to the sky, Sanji promises with heart eyes, much to Zoro's annoyance. I will keep everyone safe down there. Nami and Robin protect the ship while we are down there, Luffy ordered, his goofy tone disappearing, now speaking with his captain voice. Robin smiled, happy to know that Luffy trusted her enough to put the ship's safety in her hands. I'm counting on you, Nami winks at him. Worry not, there are no defects in my design. Usopp boasts, and a giant fish jumps out of the sea, eating one of the birds. Then, I wish you good luck. Nami waves them off, and they jump off the side into the water, diving down with air hoses wired up onto a reel as they go down further. Oh, boy. Luffy mutters through the hose. This is Chopper. Everyone, please respond, he says as he holds onto the brake to keep it steady. This is Luffy. There are tons of monsters down here, over. His voice sounded a little off. Is this a giant sea snake's nest? Zoro asks next. This is Sanji. Whoa, they look this way, he adds in. Okay, Usopp gulps. Chopper, hold the brake tight, okay, Nami warns him. Okay, he replies. Phew, I'm glad I didn't go. Usopp sighs as he wipes sweat from his brow. Salvage, salvage. Vivi heard shouting, and it came closer as they all turned around to look as if a larger ship was sailing towards them. What the heck is that? Usopp exclaimed as he looked through one of his goggles. As they come closer, still shouting and smacking together, Symbol gets louder when a final whistle goes longer as they come to a halt. Nami, Vivi, and Robin stand in front of the ship. The navigator's arm turns gold. Aye, sir, Vivi hears men shouting from the ship. Is this the area where a ship sank? A voice asks from the other ship, which looks ridiculous with a monkey figurehead. Aye, sir, boss. The men reply and an ape-like man stands on the ship's side facing away from up, all dramatic. By boss. They mean me. He turns around, shouting. Prepared to salvage the ship. The sunken ship belongs to me, the king of salvagers, and the boss of the Masira pirates. He yells again, with his men cheering him on. Masira is a human with ape-like features. He wears an orange-yellow jumpsuit and also has headphones and goggles. Are they pirates? They don't seem much, Nami mutters. Hey, you, what are you guys doing there? This is my turf, he demands. Your turf? Nami asks him, wondering if she has heard him right. That's right. Every ship that sinks in this territory belongs to me. You haven't touched anything that's mine, have you, huh? He asks them. It seems they're in for it now. Looks like he's going to salvage the ship, Robin concludes, seeming calm. Yeah, that's what it sounds like, Usopp mumbles as he crouches behind the reel. Then what? Doesn't this work for us? Nami questions and Vivi shakes her head. Quit mumbling. Answer my question, Masira orders them, and Vivi smirk as an idea comes to mind. Excuse me, can I ask you a question? Vivi asks him in the most innocent voice she can muster. You're asking me a question? That's fine. Ask me anything, he replies easily and seems a little simple-minded. It looks like you're going to salvage the ship. Is that right? Vivi asks him with a fake smile. Looks, he repeats and whistles, clearly getting the wrong idea. Hey, do you find me that monkeyful? He asks her. Monkeyful, Vivi repeats the word. That means handsome. Do you think I am? He asks her, and Vivi grins innocently. Yeah, Vivi answers, and he gets a goofy look on his face. Oh, come on, stop it. He blushes, clearly falling for it. But there isn't such a word, is there? Usopp asks quietly. So, are you gonna salvage it? He asks the monkey man. Of course. If there's a sunken ship in front of me, I'll salvage it, I'm that kind of man. If it's on the water, I'll sink it and salvage it, I'm that kind of man. There's no ship that we can't salvage, he boasts. Then, is it okay if we watch you do it? Vivi asks him, patting her eyes at them. Oh, I see, is salvaging work new to you? He chuckles. Okay, go ahead and observe it. Alright. Well done, Vivi. Let's see how things go for now, everyone. Nami tells them, and men come up from the water, beaten badly. Be careful. Vivi hears faint voices from the ship. Boss, there's trouble, one of the crew warns Masira. What's wrong? Masira asks as he looks over his shoulder. The members who went into the sea to set the cradle are. One of the crew tries to tell him. Did they get hurt by sea kings? He asks, but Vivi knows who is responsible. Well, it looks like someone beat them up, he replies, and Vivi sighs at those morons. What? Masira shouts and turns around, facing away from them. Are you saying there's someone down there in the sea? Those idiots. Nami mutters, preparing to toast all the monkeys if they attack. This isn't good. Usopp quivers in fear as Masira turns around, facing them, looking angry. Then, hey, you guys. There's someone in the sea. Be careful. Masira warns them as Nami and Usopp shake, thinking they were found out. Thanks, Vivi wave at him calmly. Guys, hurry up and set the cradle. Let's start salvaging. He shouts his orders, raising his arms in the air. Aye, sir, his men shout back, and he turns goofy again as he keeps waving at them, though Nami doesn't help as she waves back. He's waving at us. Don't let him notice the air supply, Usopp. Nami warns him as he stays pumping air for the boys. I know. Hey, you guys, imagine that they're pumpkins, dust because people are watching, okay? He tells his men, and Vivi frown, not liking the thought of being looked at as a pumpkin. Aye, sir, his men seem to like the idea as they get to work happily. Drop the cradle. He orders them. Aye, sir. They reply and start lowering it down into the water, and men in suits start dropping it down after it into the water. Watch out for the mysterious enemy, Masira warns his men as they begin to dive. I wonder if they're doing this out of pride or something. Usopp muses as they watch their little show. They're trying to give us a show, I guess. Nami looks over at her, and Vivi smiles back at her. Get moving. Masira orders his men as they move around. Aye, sir, they reply back, getting ready. Cradle set, confirmed. Vivi hears from the ship. It seems the divers are watching. Suddenly the voice of Luffy is heard, and as Usopp immediately tries to silence it, Masira looks over at them. Silence spreads over them. Nami narrowed her eyes, and so did Robin, who used her devil fruit to sprout out hands in their blind spots just in case she needed to kill all of them. What's that monkey? What's that monkey for? Usopp asks him as he points at the figurehead. Oh, this one? He giggles. You have a discerning eye. You're right. This is no ordinary prow. They all let out a sigh of relief as he doesn't seem to suspect anything. Launch Barco Hunter. Ropes begin to attach, and they lever the figurehead into the air and then down into the water. Whoa! Usopp gasps as it all goes on. Wow, amazing. Chopper marvels at it. It really is amazing. Usopp agrees with the reindeer. What does that do? Nami and Vivi ask them, not seeing it. 40 meters to the target. 30 meters. 20. 10. Barco Hunter joint. Completed. His divers say from the speaker. Alright, then, I'll start blowing air, Masira says back as he picks up a hose. Aye, sir, his men cheer. What? No way. Nami mutters as he takes a deep breath. Is he going to breathe into that and lift the ship up? That's crazy. He blows into the hose, which forms a large bubble of air that travels down. The body of the ship has risen, one of the divers confirms, and Masira stops. Now, pull it up, he orders his men. Aye, sir, they reply. Send more air, on the double, he orders, and there's a cry from one of the speakers. Boss, The crew that's in the water, one of the men shouts. What's the matter? What happened, guys? Masira shouts. There's someone in the ship. The diver cries out, and there seems to be a fight on the ship. Masira jumps up onto the railing shouting. How dare they hurt my guys? Who the hell are they? He shouts and poses with his men holding a background of flames. Boss! Help! More cries come from the divers. I'm coming. Keep on working on the salvaging operation. Masira orders them and jumps off, diving down. Aye, sir, his men reply, and he swims down. He walks off up the stairs towards the kitchen, about to open the door when there's shaking like an earthquake. He runs towards the side to look down to see a large shadow moving below them. Hey, underneath the ship. Nami gulps at the huge shadow. Why yeah. There's something down there. Usopp shivers as the shadow grows closer to the surface before bursting up, rocking the ships a little as a giant tortoise bursts out of the water. What's this? What is this thing? Usopp shrieks, and Vivi walked down to see in its mouth the air hoses and the ship in its mouth. Boss! Boss! Masira's men scream from their ship. What is this? What is it? What? A continent! Chopper shrieks some more, and Vivi walks over, placing her arm around her shoulder for comfort. I don't know, I can't see anything, I can't see anything. This is a dream, Usopp cries as he covers his eyes. A dream? Really? Chopper beams with disbelief. Phew, it's just a dream. The two cowards sigh and go to walk away. Oh, were they all eaten along with the ship? Robin questions as she watches the giant tortoise munch on the ship. Ah, you don't have to spell it out, Usopp exclaims as he jumps over to her. Yep, definitely were eaten, Luffy confirms with a grin. Stop saying that. Usopp cries out. Yes, I see the air supply hoses going into its mouth. Robin agrees, making Chopper start running around the deck, screaming. Luffy and the others were really eaten. Chopper screams and Vivi sits on the railing, watching him, ensuring he doesn't hurt himself. Yay, poor Luffy, Luffy said, wiping away fake tears while sitting beside Usopp, who cried. He was the best captain. Chopper cried, hugging Usopp, as Luffy patted Usopp on the back with a broad smile. Oh, wow. Never knew you held me on such a high pedestal, Luffy said, sounding genuinely surprised, when both Usopp and Chopper suddenly stopped crying, pulling away to see Luffy smirking. You're alive, both shouted, not believing their eyes. Of course we are. A monkey is no problem for us, Zoro said from behind Usopp, looking somehow offended. That's an amazing dinner, Luffy suddenly shouted, pointing at the giant turtle. Despite its size, Luffy knew one of his strong attacks could kill it without a problem. Suddenly it's like someone blew out the sun, as it turns almost as dark as night. What's going on? Usopp whimpers, and Vivi looks around at the dark clouds blocking the sun. She remembered stories her parent used to tell her when she was nothing but a troublesome girl who couldn't stay in one place for more than a minute. It became night. Chopper shrieks and runs over to her, holding onto her leg, shivering a little. Can't be, it's not that late yet, Nami says in shock as she looks at her pocket watch. How ominous. This sudden night is a sign that monsters will appear. They'll sink our ship. Hurry up and save our boss, the men on the other ship say. Set sail. Hurry up and get out of here, Luffy ordered right away. Yeah, let's get away from that turtle. Usopp quivers with tears falling down along with Chopper. Turtle? No, there was a monkey in the sea, Zoro argues. He must be one of the sea animals. Sanji agrees with the swordsman. He was getting along with Luffy for a while, Zoro says. The whole crew nodded, seeing that happening. They are both monkeys. Sanji agrees. But when he saw this stuff that we got from the ship, he suddenly started going on a rampage, Zoro tells them. He went on a rampage like a gorilla, Sanji adds. His name's Masira. He's a salvager. But it's amazing that you guys could escape from that turtle's mouth, Usopp explained. Something's wrong with the turtle. His mouth's staying open. Oh, that's why you could escape, Usopp points out as they look over at the tortoise with its mouth hanging open, and they get to their feet in shock. Nah, Luffy teleported us with his ability. Sanji cleared the confusion. Suddenly Masira comes jumping out of the water, yelling before landing on the side. Don't think you can get away after stealing treasure from my turf, Masira shouts at them. Treasure? There was treasure? Nami asks Luffy, all giddy. Yeah, there was a lot. Luffy grins, and Masira seems to notice that it's turned dark and looks over to his ship with his quivering men. B-boss. Behind you, they shout. What is it? He asks and looks over at the giant shadows of people with what appear to be wings on their backs. Monsters. Everyone screams in fear, seeing the shadows of giant creatures that seem taller than the sky itself. Smoker, the gentle breeze passed through him, but it did little to calm him down. With his heart almost bursting from his chest, Smoker felt like a fish in front of a shark, or in this case, a mad dog. The flag of the Marine flew high above the upcoming ships. Smoker counted over 10 of them. All warships, designed to be unstoppable, were made to destroy cities or even islands. What is this? What has made the Marine and world government think they need to err on killing one rookie? Smoker thought, his teeth digging into his cigarettes, almost biting them in half. Smoker wasn't facing her, but he knew his subordinate was shivering in fear behind him. The reputation of Admiral Sakazuki was well known amongst the Marines. Some called him a mad dog who kills without cause. Some went as far as calling him the future of the Marines. Smoker didn't know where place Sakazuki belonged, and he wasn't sure he wanted to know. Soon the first warship reached his own ship, and the atmosphere felt warm, very warm, as the sea started emitting steam. A group of Marine officers put up a wooden bridge that connected the two Marine ships with each other. Heavy footsteps started getting closer. Each footstep felt like a knife cutting the silence amongst them. Smoker saw him walking towards them, his hat hiding the top half of his face, only his mouth and chin visible. The officers saluted accordingly as he passed by. Unlike Smoker's crew, the officers of the Admiral didn't seem afraid. Or if they were, they did a good job hiding it. His feet stepped in his ship. Smoker was sure he could hear his subordinate's heavy breathing behind him. It's good to meet you, Admiral Sakazuki. Both Smoker and Hina greeted him with respect towards the Admiral. Sakazuki is incredibly tall, light-skinned, and unusually muscular. He's about as tall as his fellow admirals, with a square-shaped face, very pronounced facial features, and short black hair. He stands at 306 centimeters. He is wearing a standard marine cap and sports a crimson, double-breasted suit decorated with what appears to be a pink rose on his left buttonhole. Unlike many high-ranking Marines, he wasn't wearing a tie but instead leaving his light red-colored flower-patterned shirt unbuttoned, showing his muscular neck and part of his tattoo. He was wearing black gloves and black shoes. The tattoo on the left side of his chest is black, containing numerous images of flowers integrated into its design. Sakazuki's tattoo has flame-shaped edges extending from the Admiral's left shoulder to his hip, covering part of his back and ribs. He has another smaller tattoo in the shape of a black sword on his right deltoid and a small part of his biceps. Captain Smoker. The Marine is proud of your work as a captain. You have shown promise. I'm sure they will reward you with the title of Vice Admiral once you return back to the headquarters. He spoke with a deep voice, getting straight to the point. Smoker gulped silently, his body shaking in fear, his face sweating. What is happening? Why can't I move? Smoker thought in alarm. He couldn't even move a finger. I don't know if you have been informed, but it seems the storm pirate, Monkey D. Luffy, has a hostage in his ship. Princess Nefertari Vivi. Akainu informed them it took everything for Smoker not to gasp. Storm pirate. The wanted poster refers to them as the Straw Hat Pirates, Smoker thought, finding it strange that an admiral would make a mistake, unless a ship is already headed towards Alabasta to inform the king of his daughter's fate and to make sure everything is alright in his kingdom. Akainu added, his eyes focused on Smoker. Smoker found it strange that the admiral was telling him that. What is he trying to do? We are not involved with the Alabasta anymore, so why inform us in the first place? Smoker asked himself, finding the whole thing way too suspicious. Due to his danger level, the world government has seen him as too dangerous and influential to be kept alive. Now, tell me everything you know about Dragon's Son. The pirate crew makes it out of the dark sky into the light, the boys drop down, and Vivi wipes away her tears as she collects herself and gets to her feet. No way. Zoro huffs as he tries to catch his breath. That was new, never seen or heard about something like that, Luffy commented, still looking up at the sky. Shanks had told him about many things that were very dangerous out there. He found it odd that he failed to mention giants the size of the sky itself. No way can someone be that big. Usopp moans, and Sanji lights another cigarette. Man, the Grand Line is just one mystery after another. Today, too, Sanji comments, looking around the sea, almost expecting something else to pop up. We saw a huge gallon fall from the sky, Zoro states. The needle of the log pose is now pointing to the sky, Nami adds. A weird monkey appeared and salvaged a ship. Usopp joins in. Then, we saw a huge turtle that ate the whole ship, Chopper adds. Then, night came. Robin even joins in, and, in the end, we saw huge monsters who were dozens of times larger than the giants, Luffy gasps. Yeah, those guys scared even me. Masira agrees, and the others finally notice him, and the boys kick him off the ship. Beat it, they shout, and he goes flying, so they start moving again. In any case, those monsters were huge, Usopp says, still trying to catch his breath. Yeah, I don't ever want to see them again. Chopper added in, still hiding behind Zoro's leg. You know, Chopper. If I went all out, I would have been able to beat them. Usopp boasts a big old lie. Really? Chopper buys into it as Vivi walks past them. Yeah, right. Vivi scoffs as the boys start showing off their treasure to Nami, who doesn't seem too happy with the haul. What on earth did you guys go into the water for? Nami complains as Luffy walks around in some rusty armor and holding a sword in his hands. Vivi looks over some of the stuff. Some seem valuable. Some seem a little like junk, though Nami still seems upset at the objects. This stuff is all junk, and I don't see any clues on how to get to the sky. Like I said, there was nothing, Zoro argues. Well, that's the truth, Nami. It was clear that the ship had already been plundered. Or perhaps there was some sort of mutiny, and they killed each other. Sanji explains, and it sounds to me like the stories of the Shandorians are even more true. He did not comment on the picture he had found on the ship. There was no need to remind himself of. Then, all the more reason that we need information. You see, if we are to go to the sky, that means what happened to that ship could happen to us. We need the information to stay alive. And what did you get? Rusty swords, dishes, and a live octopus. Nami complains and starts trying to kick the pile of objects. But Vivi pulls her away. We need stuff like a journal or a sea chart. Luffy chooses this time to walk over. What's that, Luffy? Negico asks him, and he opens the helmet. Amur. Luffy answers happily with a gleam in his eye. But Nami is not in the mood, and she punches him. He crashes to the floor with the rusty armor breaking into pieces. Well, Luffy escaped her attack before it could hit him. Whoa, she crushed the armor. Vivi gape at her feat of strength. I got pretty seashells for you, Nami. Sanji coos at her as he holds up the shells as she walks over. I don't need them, you big dummy, she snaps at him. Nami #s cute when she's mad, too. He swoons with hearts in his eyes. You'd better keep your distance from her right now, Usopp warns him as Vivi walks up the steps toward Robin. Having a tough time? Robin asks her. It's only gonna get worse, really, they're all a bunch of idiots. Now we can't get to our destination, Nami snaps again. I resent that, don't lug me in with these morons. Anyway, I know where we can go. Vivi tells her with a huff. She simply pulls out a diary she found amongst the treasure their captain found. The pages move on their own to the page she wants, and she hands it over to their navigator as she reads the delicate handwriting. This says they witnessed the day turn to night in the giant shadows, so they headed to the nearest island, named Jaya. Nami informs everyone, and Vivi takes the book back, putting it into the bookcase in their room. I see. We'll have to get there, but where? Any clue? She asks and Vivi shrugs and points out in front of Negico as she sees Robin holding an eternal pose. Here. Robin hands it over to the navigator. What? An eternal pose? This? Nami stutters, and Vivi grins as she accepts the gift. I took it from those monkey people's ship earlier. Just in case, she replies, and Nami seems to tear up a little. You're the only ones on my side. She beams at us, and Vivi pats her on the back. Hey, we've got an octopus. Let's make some takoyaki. Usopp announces as he holds the octopus by its legs. It must be quite tough for you. Robin comments, and Nami looks at the eternal pose. Jaya, it must be their headquarters. Vivi comment, lucky us. Jaya? Are we going there? Usopp asks as he stuffs his face with takoyaki, and Vivi pinches one, popping it into her mouth. That's not your decision, you idiot, Nami snaps at their gunman, who jumps down from the railing. Alright. Jaya rudder full. Jaya rudder full. Luffy orders but stops. Nami, which direction would that be? Starboard, she tells him. Chopper, give me a hand, Luffy says as Chopper runs over. Right, Chopper beams. Jaya, speed ahead, Luffy exclaims with glee. Hey, hold on a second. If we go to that Jaya place, won't the log be updated there again? In other words, we won't be able to go to the Sky Island. Usopp makes a good point. What? Chopper exclaims. Stop Jaya, rudder, Luffy shouts. Hey, Nami. What's the deal? He steps up to her. What? You're the one who decided to go to Jaya, Nami replies calmly. Oh, yeah, but I didn't think that'd happen, he argues. It's your fault that you didn't think of it, the log pose has always worked like this, right? She points out. Anyway, it takes a few days for the log to reset. That's plenty of time. Vivi jump in. Yeah? Hey, listen up. Since I'm the captain, I'll decide where we're going. We're heading for Jaya, Luffy orders, and Vivi shakes her head as they stuff their faces. I wonder what kind of place Jaya is, Chopper ponders. Nami, Nijiko, Robin. Your unprecedented takoyaki just for ladies are ready. Sanji swoons as he runs towards us with 3 plates as they all eat. It's been a day since they set out for Jaya. I wonder what kind of place Jaya is. Chopper ponders again as they eat more takoyaki. I heard it's called the Land of Meat. Luffy added in with a broad smile. He didn't know what kind of place it was, but as long as they could find clues on how to go to Sky Island, he was happy. He pondered if there was anyone powerful up there. Shanks never said anything about Sky Islands. I wonder if it slipped his mind or if he wanted my journey to be a mystery instead of just straight up telling me everything I should expect, Luffy thought, with a thoughtful look on his face. It doesn't matter if there's anyone strong up there. With my devil fruit and hockey, I can beat whoever challenges us, Luffy thought, swallowing a massive chunk of meat. But you just wish it was, right? Well, it's true that I'm tired of eating takoyaki. Usopp complains as Sanji walks over to them and takes their food away. Then, don't eat them. Those were for the ladies, Sanji snaps at them, and they run after him. They said they wouldn't eat them, so what's the problem? Luffy yells as they chase after the cook down the stairs and around the mast. Give them back. Give us back the takoyaki, the boys shout as they chase after Sanji. Shut up, he keeps saying back, and he's deep in thought. In any case, is there really an island in the sky? He wonders aloud. We've experienced enough to know by now that no matter how illogical things seem, it's not strange because it's T says. Nijiko smiles, knowing she's not wrong. She looks down to see Sanji give the boys back their food, which calms them down before Luffy and Usopp run off to look out for the island, though they're hours away, at least by now. Still don't see it, Usopp? Luffy asks him. No, I don't see it yet, he answers as he looks through his binoculars. This Jaya Island isn't that far, right? Zoro asks no one in particular. Yeah, we're not far off since the weather's been stable for a while now, Nami answered as she walked down the steps with him as they tried spotting the island. Then, Jaya must be a spring island, Luffy comments as he lies on his back on the figurehead with Chopper sitting on the railing next to him. It feels nice and warm. Spring weather's nice. It looks like the seagulls are enjoying it, too. Chopper comments when Vivi feels something heading towards them fast, and suddenly one of the seagulls falls onto the deck along with the other 2 as well. Ah! They were shot. He cries out and jumps down. She walks slowly up the steps to see the 3 birds twitching on the floor and feels like someone is watching them. Oh, let's make yakitori. Luffy cheers as Chopper kneels over the birds who are still alive. Shot? I didn't hear any gunfire, did you, Vivi? Usopp asks, and Vivi shakes her head, but she still can't shake the feeling of being watched. Look, I found a bullet, Chopper exclaims as he holds up his tweezers with a bullet. Considering the direction they were flying, the bullet came from the direction the ship's facing. He points over in the direction of Jaya. Which makes some sense if the marksman is skilled enough and a powerful rifle is used. Are you saying that shots came from an island we can't even see yet? That's impossible, Chopper. Nami denies it as she joins us. But I was watching them the whole time, Chopper argues. Then what kind of eyesight, snipping skills, and rifle do you think this sniper has? Chopper asks with a nervous chuckle. Most likely perfect eyesight with some help from a scoop of some kind. And their snipping skills are perfect with some of the greatest, though they didn't kill the birds with direct hits. I'd say it was a test run at best. And the rifle would have to be powerful, long range and high quality. Usopp answers as she looks out into the water. Wait, you really think someone shot us? Nami asks everyone as Luffy nods. I do, and I think they're about to shoot again. Move to the right, Luffy tells everyone. And Nami steps away from him when a bullet skims past him and is about to hit Zoro when Nezuko grabs the bullet midair. Luffy narrowed his eyes. She had stopped the bullet with her bare hands without using haki in any way. And her skin was flawless, with not even a single scratch. What will you do with it? Usopp wonders out loud, seeing the way Nezuko was holding the bullet in her palm, inspecting it for a second before putting it between her thumb and index finger, slowly pointing it from where it came from. I will return it back, Nezuko commented dryly before pointing in the direction it came, still holding it between her thumb and index finger. Wait, what? Usopp didn't finish whatever he was about to say when Nezuko launched the bullet with impressive speed back to from wherever it came from. For a minute, they all waited for a counterattack, but no bullets were shot at them. Wow, sis, you're incredible. Nami complimented, and so did Vivi, who quickly added that Nezuko had saved her life back in Alabasta. Luffy and Robin kept quiet, and so did Zoro, who noticed the way his captain was gazing at Nezuko with suspicion. Something is off here, Luffy thought, his fingers on his chin. Sanji, we got seagulls. Usopp picks up the dead birds, handing them over to the cook, who seems worried about Nezuko, but the blue-haired woman smiles to assure him. I could do with something to eat, Nezuko tells him with a cute smile. Her eyes closed, and Sanji quickly picked them up, running off toward the kitchen. Works every time. She jokes. Why would someone on Jaya wants to kill us? Robin wonders out loud, looking at the direction they are heading. Jaya is a hot spot for pirates. It's practically lawless. Sounds fun. Zoro grins, holding an unsheathed sword over his shoulder. Wow, cool. I see a neat-looking town, Luffy exclaims as they get close enough to see Mock Town. Hey, doesn't it look kinda like a resort? Usopp exclaims as he runs over with Chopper. Resort, Chopper exclaims, joining in. Hurry up, Mary. Luffy cheers as he taps the figurehead. Yeah, it makes me feel like I want to stick around a bit. Nami agrees with the boys, and Usopp seems to notice the pirate ships docked at the port. But is it my imagination, or do the ships lined up in the harbor look like pirate ships? Usopp questions as he looks over the ships, and Nami slaps his shoulder playfully. Silly Usopp, since when can pirate ships just openly line up in a harbor? Nami pointed out, but she knew what she was seeing. She had heard of this kind of town even back home. Why, you're right. Usopp chuckles nervously. Help me, he's gonna kill me. Someone shouts from the town, scaring the cowardly duo. What's with this town? Usopp cries out. I did warn you. It's a pirate hotspot. Vivi reminds them calmly as they dock in the port. Zoro, Luffy, and Nami should go into town and find what they can, she suggested, and Nami suddenly had berry eyes. Zoro, Luffy. Stop Nami from stealing. Pirates aren't fond of thieves. Okay, go it, Vivi. Luffy agrees with a grin, and Zoro nods in agreement. And Nami, you keep them from starting fights, Vivi tells her, and she nods as the two boys jump off, walking into town. Hey, Zoro. Luffy. Wait up. Nami runs after them, leaving them behind. She went. Chopper whispers sadly. Well, she'll probably be okay since those two are with her. Usopp comforts the reindeer as Sanji walks over. What? If Nami's going, then Sanji says, about to jump over the railing, but they stop him, pushing him away. Don't go, they shout. If you go, what'll happen if this ship is attacked? Usopp cries, and Vivi shakes her head at their antics. Please don't go, Chopper begs him, tearing up. Fine, let me go. Sanji gives in and turns towards the others, though Robin makes her escape before Vivi can. The princess wondered what the future would bring them. Suddenly, a cold breeze flew over the ship. Suddenly Vivi felt a chill go down her bones, as if things would soon get much worse. And the dark clouds approaching weren't exactly comforting her. Cobra as the moon cast a soft glow through the palace windows, illuminating the regal chamber. The king of Alabasta found himself engulfed in a sea of solitude. It had been countless weeks, each day filled with a void that seemed to stretch into eternity since his beloved daughter bid farewell to the castle. The weight of her absence pressed heavily upon his heart, causing a poignant ache that refused to the stillness of the night. The king sat upon a royal chair, a solitary figure in the grand solar. The room was adorned with opulent tapestries, reflecting the illustrious history of the kingdom, yet they paled in comparison to the vivid memories of his daughter's laughter that once echoed within these hallowed halls. With a heavy sigh, he cast his gaze upon a cherished portrait, a portal to the past that held the power to both console and torment him. Lost in the depths of his introspection, the king's weathered hands cradled a photograph, its edges worn by the passage of time. As his fingers traced the contours of the image, his mind conjured the ethereal visage of a woman with flowing tresses resembling the cerulean waves of the boundless ocean. "She's so much like her mother," Cobra whispered, his voice laced with a bittersweet longing that mirrored the depths of the sea. The intensity of his emotions swelled, causing his eyes to shimmer with unshed tears. The embodiment of a love that transcended all that hushed Alabasta found solace in the portrait, as if it were a bridge connecting the realms of the past and present. Memories intertwined with dreams, merging into a tapestry of yearning and affection, intertwining the threads of his daughter's absence with the enduring legacy of her mother. And so, he remained there, ensconced in his royal chair, surrounded by the ghostly whispers of love and loss, as the stars continued their celestial dance overhead. "Titi, I miss you so much," he thought, his hands sliding across the portrait, a tear falling on the frame that he quickly wiped away. The death of Pell had left them all in shambles. Just because Crocodile was killed, there were countless bands that had appeared during and after the rebellion. There were still too many things left to fix. Cobra wished he could do more for his country. He knew it was selfish of him, but a part of him wished the pirate crew was still around to help. Lost in his contemplation, Cobra's thoughts were abruptly interrupted by a gentle yet persistent knock emanating from the chamber's entrance. Without turning to face the door, he responded with an air of authority, "Come in." As the door creaked open, a sense of urgency permeated the room as Igaram, his loyal and dedicated confidant, stepped forward with trepidation, his voice trembling. "I'm sorry for bothering you at such a late hour. You have a guest waiting for you in the throne room." Cobra's eyes widened in astonishment, his heart quickening its pace, as he demanded with a mixture of concern, "What?" As King Cobra strode through the grand, winding corridors, his regal presence commanded attention. 10 loyal royal guards trailed closely behind, their imposing figures a testament to their unwavering devotion. A perplexing question escaped the king's lips, echoing through the ornate halls, as he pondered the mysterious identity of a certain individual. "Who is he?" His voice reverberated with authority, intertwining with the air and resonating with intrigue. Eager to appease His Majesty's curiosity, Igaram stepped forward, his countenance ashen like a spectral apparition. His words, laden with uncertainty, conveyed the unsettling truth. "We don't know, Your Majesty." He didn't give names. The king's senses heightened, his instincts alert to potential danger. As the massive double doors swung open, revealing a grand hall bathed in an ethereal glow, King Cobra gracefully stepped inside, his regal presence commanding attention. With every deliberate stride, his piercing eyes scanned the room until they locked onto an unexpected visitor, a mysterious figure who had somehow managed to make themselves at home upon the magnificent throne. With a fiery burst of indignation, Igaram's voice reverberated throughout the vast chamber, his words lashing out like venomous serpents. "Stand up from the throne of His Majesty unless you want to lose your head," he bellowed, his eyes ablaze with disbelief and fury. The audacity of this man, casually perched upon the regal seat as if he were a reigning monarch, struck Igaram to his very core. Who did he think he was? Usurping the rightful authority of the kingdom? Such insolence could not be tolerated. Yet, as Igaram's thoughts raced, The oppressive weight of the air threatened to stifle him, a tangible reminder of the danger that lurked within the shadows. Cobra, strained to discern the intricacies of the man's face, shrouded in the dimness that enveloped the chamber, leaving only hints of his visage. "It has been some time, Cobra." As the haunting voice reverberated through the air, sending shivers down Cobra's spine, he felt his heart plummet to the deepest recesses of his being. A sense of dread washed over him, causing his stomach to churn and twist in knots. Every nerve in his body seemed to tremble uncontrollably, as if a sudden surge of electricity had surged through his veins, leaving him in a state of vulnerability and unease. With beads of perspiration forming on his forehead, Cobra summoned every ounce of courage he had left and managed to find his voice, albeit shaky and weak. "Why are you here?" he stammered, his voice barely audible amidst the overwhelming rush of fear and anxiety that coursed through him. "I'm sure we have a lot to talk about, don't we?" The man was a thick man with a full white mustache and beard. He possesses white dreadlocks, which he wears a flat black hat over. He has a scar on the left side of his face, stretching diagonally over his eye. His outfit consists of a black suit over a dark purple tie and a white collared shirt, as well as black pants. Standing up from the throne with the help of a walking cane. "Why are you here, Saturn?" "I will repeat it again. I want no problems, no need to start a pointless battle." Nami, her face stern and her voice firm, repeated her words to her captain and swordsman, making it clear that she wanted no problems and that there was no need to start a pointless battle. Both of them groaned loudly in response. Luffy and Zoro were perplexed as to why she was creating such a commotion. They were surrounded by pirates, but they weren't completely helpless. However, they knew better than to go against their nakama. Luffy placed his hand firmly on his chest, his voice reverberating with a deep and powerful resonance as he declared with utmost conviction, "I, Pirate Luffy, solemnly swear not to fight in this town." Nami's gaze was fixed on him, her expression one of disbelief, as if she couldn't believe a single word he said. She knew she had to take what she could get, but her eyes slowly shifted away from him and towards Zoro. "What? I'm not fighting anyone unless they want to fight," Zoro replied dryly before he spun on his heel, trying to walk deeper into the town. "Where the hell are you going?" Nami suddenly screamed at him with fire in her eyes. Zoro realized he was instead going to an empty corner. Zoro blinked once, twice, not understanding how he made a simple mistake like this. Someone is purposely doing something to me. Zoro soon came to the conclusion that someone was making him walk the wrong way. "From now on, you follow us. You don't walk in the front." Nami rebuked him with a dangerous tick on her forehead. Luffy wanted to point out that Zoro had lost his way even when he was following someone. Zoro sighed in exasperation, his eyes rolling as he scratched the top of his head, before following the navigator and his captain. Yeah, he said, his voice sounding bored. "Just don't scream, witch. I don't need any more of that today." As they ventured further into the town, the screams of people beating each other in the middle of the road became more and more audible, creating an atmosphere of chaos and confusion. Luffy thought the town was a little funny. His observation haki spread far and wide in case there were any problems on the road. Nami's heart raced as she watched, a gunshot ringing out in the air and a man falling to the ground with a large wound on his chest. She watched as someone rushed to help him, only for the wounded man to grab their wrist and pull out a knife, plunging it into the unfortunate man's face. Nami couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine as she murmured under her breath, "Geez. People here are ruthless." She had seen her fair share of cruelty back in her hometown, where Arlong and a few of his crew members would often find a target and beat them mercilessly, leaving them barely alive in the middle of the street. Even those who tried to help the unfortunate victim would be met with Arlong's wrath, sometimes resulting in death or crippling injuries. This was nothing new to her. Luffy had a cold face, not really bothered by the brutality of what he was seeing, but they heard the rough coughing near them. They all noticed a huge horse, pale blue, standing in the distance. Despite the creature, everyone's attention was drawn to the man coughing roughly near the horse. His face was so pale and gaunt, one would think he was dead. He was a very large man. His nose is slightly longer than normal, his face appears always unshaven, and there are straight purple tattoos coming from his hairline to the corners of his eyes. He has long and ash blonde hair and constantly has a pallid look about him, acting as though he is on the verge of death. He was wearing a black fur coat, a wide-brimmed, black beaten hat, and what appeared to be a dark white hangman's noose around his neck. Help me, T to SS stand up. The man begged before coughing again. Lying on his stomach on the ground, Luffy noticed a bag of apples tied to the horse's saddle. You just don't want to stand on your own, don't you? Zoro asked with a deadpan look. The captain and Zoro shrugged their shoulders before deciding to help the poor man. Nami wanted to say that it would be better not to help but figured Luffy would see an attack coming if the injured man was doing a similar trick to the one who stabbed the other. Helping him to sit back on his horse. There you go, now you can go, Luffy said with a hint of wariness in his voice. Something the stranger picked up but made no comment about, blood coming out from the corner of his lips, as he managed an innocent smile. Thank you, young man. It is a breath of fresh air to see people who care for the elderly, the man said, his voice suddenly no longer stuttering. Nami wanted to say he wasn't an old man when the tall man hit the horse with his stirrup iron. Move stronger. Come on, my patience. The man spoke to the horse, and the horse suddenly coughed, too, his feet barely holding him. The horse is sick too, Zoro said, finding the situation strange and a little funny. The man offered the bag of apples to Luffy. Please, here. Take one, young man. The man offered with an innocent smile. Luffy simply grabbed one he liked before offering it to the horse, who ate it without a second thought. Boon Nami was in shock as she watched the first floor of a nearby building explode in flames, engulfing the area in a sea of orange and red. She could see people running around, their clothes and skin burning, yet no one seemed to care enough to help them. All of them kept running until someone simply shot them, or they fell to the ground dead. What the hell is your game? Zoro threatened, his hands on the pommel of his swords, ready to cut down the man along with his stupid horse. Luffy watched him unamused while the man had a bright grin on his face. Never thought you would give it to my horse, but luckily for both you and stronger. That apple was a good one. The man spoke, his voice no longer sounding tired and weary from the sickness, but instead with a hint of warning that seemed to linger in the air, before he commanded his horse to ride away into the town. Luffy simply stared at him as he rode away before deciding to go back to why they had come here in the first place. What the hell is wrong with these people? Nami wondered out loud before following her captain and Zoro. I'm beginning to doubt we will find useful information here. As Nami continued her rant, her arms crossed under her bosom, her words echoing through the crowd and garnering various looks of lust from many of the onlookers. She paid them no mind, her focus solely on the task at hand, while Luffy snuck an arm around her waist in a show of support, despite the growing doubt that they would find any useful information here. Luffy tried to reassure Nami, taking her hands in his and looking her in the eyes with a comforting smile. Don't worry, Nami, he said. We will find something, and even if we don't, I know Robin will find something. I promise. He leaned in and kissed the top of her head, hoping to ease her worries, his observation haki letting him know that Robin was already working on it, using her devil fruit to listen around conversation. The only downside is that someone with strong enough observation haki could detect when a limb formed by Nico Robin was nearby, even if she was far away. Nami pursed her lips into a thin line, unsure of what to make of the mysterious Nico Robin. She seemed capable enough, but Nami couldn't shake the feeling that there was something Robin was keeping hidden. Still, Nami was willing to give her a chance. After all, she had only just joined the crew. The sudden sound of loud laughter filled the air, and the people around them were quick to point out the source of the noise. Many pointed fingers at a man standing on top of a building, his arms raised in the air while laughing loudly. The man is an unusually large, tall, broad-chested, broad-shouldered, tan-skinned, muscular man, with a broad upper body and a thin lower body in comparison. He has curly violet hair reaching down to his shoulders and wearing orange decorations on it, which covers the upper part of his face but reveals his eyes and his nose. He wears a sleeveless black shirt and a pair of white pants with ruffles coming from the base and then reaching up to his knees. He also wears black bands tied around both elbows. Burgess also appears to be always wearing a championship belt. He just beat another one. That wrestling champion is unstoppable. How can he even do it? It's not like he has a price on his head. Just who the hell is he? One asked the other. Champion? Both Luffy and Zoro turned around to look at him with interest. Don't even think about it. Nami screamed with shark teeth before dragging them both away by their ears, ignoring their pleas for her to stop. Later, if we continue like this, we will never find Sky Island, Nami said with a huff of frustration. After searching for what seemed like an eternity, they finally stumbled upon a picturesque paradise. It was a resort of sorts, with multiple houses built around wooden platforms that were suspended above the crystal blue sea. The sun was shining brightly in the sky, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of the palm trees that surrounded them. Nami couldn't believe her eyes as she walked around the resort, her mouth agape in awe. Who would have thought a pirate town could have such a beautiful place? She wondered out loud, taking in the sights of the stunning resort. Well, since this is a pirate town, and this place seems very peaceful, the only way that could happen is if someone on this island holds this place with a big enough name to scare everyone away. Luffy pointed out, in comparison to the rest of the town, this place looked like a place one would go for summer. Zoro was about to ask who could be so powerful when they heard light footsteps behind them. All of them spun around in unison, just in time to face a peculiar-looking guy who was sweating profusely, as if he had been running for miles. The man was a short, pale, middle-aged man who was wearing a white buttoned-up long-sleeve shirt, a cloth around his waist similar to a green apron, and red pants patterned with pink flowers. He has small, thick lips, round eyes, and thick black eyebrows. He also has a tiny mustache that comes out from behind his lips. "Sir, you can't just pup in this hotel. This is disastrous for me. Please leave." The man spoke with a sense of anxiousness, his hands tightly clasped together in front of his chest, his body trembling with fear as if he was trying to contain the emotions that were bubbling up inside of him. "Why? Who's here?" Zoro asked with a smirk. Nami let out a sigh, knowing what Zoro probably wanted to do. "Who?" the man almost screamed, not believing that they didn't know about the pirate who was living in this hotel, covering his mouth before he could scream. "Bellamy will have my head if he finds you here. This place belongs to him." The man, his face contorted in fear, answered with a trembling voice, beads of sweat dripping down his forehead and his clothes around his chest area becoming increasingly transparent as his body was overcome with perspiration. "Geez, we're just looking around. What is his bounty anyway?" Nami's sly smirk caused her eyes to twinkle mischievously, almost as if they were turning into berry symbols, and Luffy couldn't help but chuckle at her playful antics. Before the shaking man could answer, they both heard footsteps from behind the man. "Who are these shits? I don't care what they want, but I want them far away from here." The man stood before the Straw Hats pirates, his face twisted into a snarl of contempt as he asked his question, his eyes blazing with anger. Beside him stood a woman, her eyeglasses perched atop her nose, her white shirt clinging to her curves and revealing a generous glimpse of her cleavage. The man is a tall, muscular man with white skin. He has wavy, shoulder-length blue hair and wears a purple-tinted visor over his eyes. He also wears a white furred coat over his bare chest in addition to golden chains that are either a necklace or a clasp. He has red and white striped gloves and pants with the same pattern alongside a gold belt. On his bare chest is a tattoo of Doflamingo's Jolly Roger, a smiley with a cancel symbol. He also has the symbol on his belt. Luffy recognized the symbol. He had seen it before, so these pets are just glorified pirates of Doflamingo, Luffy thought. He knew none of them was strong since they weren't part of Doflamingo's main family. Mr. Sarquis, the hotel owner tried to answer, but the pirate cut him off. "I don't care about your reasons. Just get them off our property. We are overcharging you just to rent this entire place. Bellamy won't be happy if these shits are here for one more minute. You're already pushing your luck," the man said with a huff. The woman who was eyeing the straw pirates before looking at Nami with a little smile. "Who are you, girl? Why don't you join us? The Bellamy pirates are quite generous," the woman asked Nami with a sly, mischievous voice, her lips curling into a smirk as she looked her up and down with a knowing glint in her eye. "Not interested. I was wondering what your bounties are," Nami asked curiously, wondering if she could just kill them and get their bounty. Her mind racing with the possibilities of what she could do with the money. 38 million berries, here. My beautiful lady, Sarquis said with a puff of his chest, showing his teeth at Nami, who was unimpressed. That's even lower than mine, Nami said with a dull voice, disappointed by his bounty. Good joke, girl. Sarquis dismissed Nami's claim with a wave of his hand before looking at Luffy. Who are you? What's your bounty? Sarquis asked, leaning closer to Luffy, using his body to look more intimidating, which he knew wasn't working as well as he wanted. Straw Hat, Luffy. My bounty is 356 million berries. Luffy answered casually. The place was still and quiet, as if time had stopped, until suddenly, both Sarquis and the woman erupted in a fit of laughter, their joyous chuckles filling the air. The owner of the hotel started laughing along nervously. You expect me to believe that? He shouted back at Luffy, leaning in closer and trying to appear more intimidating, his eyes narrowing and his jaw clenching as he waited for a response. The Straw Hat Captain was getting really annoyed, but he remembered Shanks's words. Don't pick on fight unnecessarily just to show your strength. In fact, the less people know what you're capable of, the better. Nami, Zoro. We are leaving. Luffy ordered his crewmates, turning around and walking away. The trio heard Sarquis laughing again, his voice echoing in the air as he uttered something about liars. Once the pirates left, Sarquis was about to go back to his room with his woman and continue where they had left off when he heard someone from behind. Don't be so quick to judge, Sarquis, one of the Bellamy pirates said, holding up a wanted poster of Straw Hat Luffy. This kid may not look like much, but his bounty is nothing to scoff at. I wouldn't underestimate them if I were you. Sarquis's eyes widened in surprise as he grabbed the poster, bringing it closer to his face to get a better look. He couldn't help but let out a nervous laugh as he felt the paper crinkle in his grip, his fingers tightening around it almost to the point of tearing it in half. Bellamy will want to know this, but I doubt he is anything we need to worry about. It's probably just the Marines overreacting, he said, letting out another nervous laugh before running inside. Bar, we will never find any information like this. We are wasting time here, Nami said with clear annoyance that she wasn't really trying to hide as she was sitting on a stool in front of a bar. Nami had ordered a refreshing drink to quench her thirst and a cooked fish to satisfy her hunger, while Zoro had ordered a cold beer to wash down his meal and a chicken baked in clay, topped with onions, garlic, and a generous helping of spicy powder to give the roastior. Luffy had ordered a cherry pie since the fat man next to him was eating it with such gusto. It's a pirate town, the killing is an everyday thing. But pirates don't really harm the locals. No point in having money if there's no one to accept it. The log here takes 4 days to record, so if you don't want to get stuck into trouble, I would suggest you all leave the moment your log is done. The barkeeper informed the crew, diligently cleaning the bar with a tissue in hand. 4 days, huh? That means we should leave in 2 days. Nami quietly whispered to herself as she sipped her delicious, sweet juice, savoring the flavor as it trickled down her throat. Zoro had just begun to break apart the hard clay, eagerly anticipating the delicious chicken that lay beneath, when both Luffy and the rotund man shouted in unison, their voices echoing through the air and startling Zoro out of his reverie. Sir, this cherry pie is so disgusting, I thought I'd die. Sir, this cherry pie is to die for. Both fell silent as they looked at each other. Zoro furrowed a brow, and Nami rolled her eyes, knowing the upcoming fight before it even happened. The barkeeper, as he was cleaning a glass used for whiskey, shrugged and said with a nonchalant air, well, I'm not the chef, so I don't really care. Luffy and the other guy were determined to prove who was the toughest, so they decided to start a staring competition. They both grabbed a bottle filled with beer, chugged it down in one go, and slammed the empty bottles against the bar with a loud thud. It was clear that neither of them was willing to back down, and the competition was only just beginning. This drink is terrific, this drink is terrible. The man and Luffy were in a fierce competition, and the man's eyes narrowed as he glared at Luffy, his expression full of determination and intensity. Something wrong with your tongue? Something wrong with your brain? None answered each other's questions. Nami wondered why Luffy was wasting time with him. Give me 50 pieces of meat for the road. Give me 51 cherry pies. Actually, give me 52 pieces of meat. I changed my mind. Make it 53 cherry pies. My tongue slipped. I want 60 pieces of meat. My children are starving. Give me 70 cherry pieces. My entire city is hungry. Give me 100 pieces of meat. Do you want some of this? Luffy shouted at the man, pointing at his fist. Bring it on, brat. The man shouted right back, preparing to punch Luffy. Luffy, you promised no fighting. Nami shouted while shaking her head. This was so childish, her fingertips touching her forehead. What kind of a man starts a fight about something as trivial as who can eat more? She thought to herself, her expression a mix of disappointment and disbelief. We have more than enough meat in the ship. You don't need to order that much, Nami added before letting out a weary sigh. Zoro was laughing out loud. It seems he was the only one enjoying the stupid fight. The man, his face contorted in anger, suddenly paused as he realized what the girl was implying. You're a pirate? He asked, his tone shifting from anger to seriousness as he awaited his response. The man has a massive build as his body is round with relatively thin limbs. He has a prominent lipped mouth with several broken or missing teeth, a pronounced crooked nose, and a very large and hairy chest and torso. Long, thick, woolly black hair falls down the back of his neck, underneath a black bandana, and a small scruffy black beard grows around his jawline. He was wearing an open-buttoned white shirt with rolled-up sleeves, green trousers with black line patterns, a yellow sash around his waist, and classic black swashbuckler boots complete with large bronze buckles. Yay! What's your bounty? He asked with a full grin, his voice sounding deeper now as if he was expecting something grand, his eyes twinkling with anticipation. 356 million, Luffy answered without missing a beat. The moment he uttered his response, the entire bar was filled with an eerie silence until suddenly, the room erupted in a chorus of laughter that echoed off the walls. The man leaned closer to Luffy, his index finger hitting the center of Luffy's chest as he shouted with incredulity, like hell. Do you expect me to believe you? Your bounty is 30 million at best? What about you? Who are you? Luffy's voice was low and menacing, and the stranger could feel the intensity of his gaze. Marshal D. Teach, no bounty. He answered with a large grin as if he was happy that he had no bounty. The rest of the bar laughed hearing that, but Teach did not react to that. If he was bothered by it, he did a good job hiding it. Luffy narrowed his eyes slightly when he mentioned his D, but made no comment about it. Something is really off with him, he thought before deciding just to leave the place. Luffy was about to tell his crew to leave. He didn't want to waste his time with this guy. The bar door was suddenly thrust open with a loud creak, and a man stepped inside, his chest heaving as he gasped for breath. His eyes darted around the room, taking in the scene before him, and a sense of dread seemed to fill the air. Bellamy is coming here, he shouted for everyone to hear. Everyone's face went a little pale except the Straw Hat Pirates and Teach, who let out a mocking chuckle. The sound of multiple heavy footsteps echoed through the room, and the atmosphere shifted to one of hushed anticipation as Bellamy strode in with a wide grin on his face. Behind him, a large group of people followed, all of them looking like they were part of his crew. The room was so silent that you could have heard a pin drop. So, who here is Straw Hat Luffy with a bounty of 70 million berries? He shouted out, his voice reverberating off the walls of the bar and echoing through the air, creating a cacophony of sound that filled the room. Everyone immediately pointed their fingers at Luffy, who simply tilted his head at the side in confusion. Who the hell are you? Near Jaya the ship was sailing against the waves of the sea, its sails billowing in the wind as the crew of over 10 people worked diligently on deck. One man, however, stood apart from the rest, his gaze fixed on the figurehead of the ship, as if he was searching for something in its carved features before looking at the vast sea. His eyes looked at the horizon in front of them. Following the ship were 9 others warships filled to the brim with marines. Akainu-sama. We are approaching. We should arrive within an hour. A man, dressed in a vibrant red suit, stood before Admiral Akainu with his head bowed in a gesture of respect. He was wearing a hoodie that left only his eyes visible, the rest of his face hidden, like a mysterious figure shrouded in secrecy. The symbol of the world government was emblazoned on the back of the hoodie, a reminder of the power and authority that the organization held. Good job, Captain Ketsueki Shinny. Prepare everyone for battle. I want everyone at their best. No exceptions. Akainu commanded his men with a deep and powerful voice, not even sparing them a single glance as he issued his orders. His voice was so authoritative that it seemed to reverberate through the air, leaving no doubt in anyone's mind. Shinny nodded, his long purple hair flowing with the wind, before running off to do that. On his hip, a sword was strapped that had a strange curve at the end, glinting in the sunlight as he ran. Akainu inhaled deeply, taking in the salty sea air as he thought of Mocktown, the infamous pirate town. The only reason it was still standing was because of Doflamingo and his little secret. Well, let's see how you can escape me, Dragon's son, Akainu thought with determination, his hand holding the new poster of the pirate, slowly heating it. The sound of multiple heavy footsteps echoed through the room, and the atmosphere shifted to one of hushed anticipation as Bellamy strode in with a wide grin on his face. Behind him, a large group of people followed, all of them looking like they were part of his crew. The room was so silent that you could have heard a pin drop. "So, who here is Straw Hat Luffy with a bounty of 70 million berries?" he shouted out, his voice reverberating off the bar's walls and echoing through the air, creating a cacophony of sound that filled the room. Everyone immediately pointed their fingers at Luffy, who simply tilted his head to the side in confusion. "Who the hell are you?" The air in the bar grew tense as Luffy's words reverberated through the room, causing a round of loud gasps and murmurs amongst the patrons. The Straw Hat Captain's blunt question of, "Who the hell are you?" had caught everyone by surprise, especially Bellamy, the pirate standing before him. Despite keeping a stoic face, Luffy, Nami, and Zoro could tell that Bellamy was annoyed, as his eyes were twitching with barely contained frustration. The other bar patrons were quick to judge Luffy, calling him a fool for not recognizing the infamous Bellamy, whose reputation preceded him as one of the most fearsome and ruthless pirates. The two men behind him were glaring at Luffy. Zoro's hand instinctively reached for the pommel of two of his swords, ready to draw them at any moment if things turned south. He wasn't one to back down from a fight, especially when it was a matter of protecting himself or his crew. Zoro's eyes narrowed as he assessed Bellamy's every move, his muscles tensing as he prepared for any sudden attack. He knew this guy was trouble, and he was not about to let him catch Zoro off guard. Blackbeard, on the other, looked at Luffy with a keen eye, wondering what the Straw Hat would do. Usually, he wouldn't care, but Luffy was wearing something that didn't belong to him, the damn straw hat he was wearing. Blackbeard recognized it at first sight. Teach stood there, looking at the straw hat in Luffy's possession, wondering why Shanks had given it to him. Why him of all people? Teach couldn't help but ponder. He remembered that little brat. A part of him wished he had left more than a scar over his eye. "I have heard about you. It seems you have quite a reputation. I wouldn't mind if we could share a drink," Bellamy offered with a fake smile. Luffy, who was known for his nonchalant attitude, simply nodded in response to Bellamy's offer. He wasn't one to turn down a cold beer, especially after a long day at sea. However, Luffy couldn't help but notice the unease in Bellamy's demeanor as he spoke. He knew that Bellamy was one of Doflamingo's lackeys, and he wasn't one to trust anyone associated with the Shichibukai. And if Doflamingo's little pet tried something, if Bellamy tried anything, Luffy was more than prepared to put him 6 feet under. "2 beers for my friends and me," Bellamy ordered with a broad smile, his tongue sticking out as he spoke, almost like a dog, sitting between Luffy and Zoro. The latter was counting the men this pirate had brought with him. Around 15 of them. Is this fool really cocky? None of them are strong. Yet he walks inside as if he owned the place, Zoro thought, wondering which one he should cut first if it came down to it. As the boisterous sound of laughter and chatter filled the air, the bartender absent-mindedly nodded, his eyes scanning the crowded tavern before him. With practiced ease, he grabbed 2 large jugs, expertly filling them to the brim with golden beer, the frothy foam spilling over the sides and cascading down the sides of the jugs. As he passed the frothy vessels over to Luffy and Bellamy, their faces lit up with excitement, their hands eagerly grasping the cold glasses as they took in the refreshing aroma of the beer. Both started drinking the beer when Bellamy suddenly put his hand on top of Luffy's hat, ready to smash Luffy's face against the rough wooden surface of the bar. Mistake number 1, Luffy thought grimly as Bellamy tried to push his head down and crush it against the bar. But it didn't take long to realize that Luffy's head wasn't budging as he kept drinking the beer peacefully, as if Bellamy wasn't using his entire strength to smash his face against the bar. Something Bellamy's crew noticed right away: some of them started sweating. Luffy's parched throat had been yearning for that last sip of beer, and as he tipped the jug back and drank it down, he closed his eyes and savored the cool, refreshing liquid as it slid down his throat. With a contented smile on his face, he let out a deep, satisfied sigh, feeling the weight of the day's troubles slipping away with each passing moment as he placed the now empty jug back on the bar with a gentle clink. Silence spread over the bar before the Straw Hat Pirate let out a sigh. With a scowl on his face, Luffy's eyes narrowed into slits as he glared at Bellamy, who stood a good few inches taller than him. The straw hat that sat atop Luffy's head was a symbol of his strength, his resilience, and his determination to become the Pirate King. To Luffy, the hat was one of his greatest treasures. He could feel his muscles tense up, ready to pounce on the taller man, who seemed to shrink back a little, sensing the danger. The intensity of his gaze was enough to make Bellamy gulp audibly and take a step back, realizing that he had made a grave mistake. As the pirate's cold, calculating gaze lingered on him, Bellamy found himself experiencing the same unease and apprehension as he did when the notorious and dangerous Doflamingo was within proximity. The pirate's eyes seemed to bore into his very soul. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up as he tried to maintain his composure in the face of such intimidating scrutiny, feeling as though he was walking a tightrope between life and death. Luffy wondered if he should kill him. His 55 million bounties could be some good money to spend on a new ship. From every one of his crew, Robin could easily deliver his body to an office undetected and receive the reward without anyone noticing anything, but before he decided on that. "Luffy, before you do anything," she said, her voice carrying over the hubbub of the bar, "I just wanted to ask if anyone here knows anything about Sky Island?" The rest of the patrons in the bar fell silent, their curious gazes shifting toward the orange-haired navigator. For a brief moment, the atmosphere was tense with anticipation as everyone waited to see if anyone would respond to her inquiry. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by a burst of raucous laughter that erupted from the crowd, causing Nami to roll her eyes in exasperation. Mistake number 2. Sky Island, she must be stupid. What kind of fairy tale is that? He laughed, unaware of the strange shift in temperature around them. Suddenly, a chill filled the air, causing the hairs on the back of their necks to stand on end. None of them could explain the sudden drop in temperature, but they all felt a sense of unease as they glanced at each other, wondering if they were all experiencing the same thing. Luffy, with his eyes widened and an intense expression on his face, suddenly glared furiously at the rest of the bar patrons, who were laughing and drinking merrily, completely unaware of his presence. In a split second, he unleashed a powerful wave of Conqueror's Haki, causing a ripple of energy to surge through the air and hit everyone in the room like a thunderbolt. The once lively atmosphere turned eerily quiet as all those who were laughing fell silent, one by one. The sound of glasses and bottles clinking against the wooden floor could be heard as the unconscious bodies of the patrons dropped to the ground. In an instant, Bellamy found himself on his knees, his whole body shaking uncontrollably like a leaf caught in a raging storm. The sensation was all too familiar, and he knew exactly what it was. It was the same ability possessed by Doflamingo, and now he was experiencing it firsthand from NCE thought was beneath him. Bellamy struggled to keep himself awake, but the Haki was too overwhelming, too powerful. This bastard took down my crew with a single glance, Bellamy thought, his anger slowly building up. Blackbeard, on the other hand, a grin slowly stretched from the corner of his lips. "It seems I have found a good fish, if only his bounty were a bit higher," he thought before standing up, leaving the bar and ready to talk with the rest of his crew. "What did you do to my crew?" Bellamy's voice boomed as his piercing glare locked onto Luffy, who stood unfazed by the impending confrontation. The Straw Hat Pirate, with a toothy grin, shifted his gaze to Nami, who snuggled up to him and planted a tender kiss on his cheek. Bellamy's anger only intensified at the sight of their affectionate display as he struggled to comprehend how Luffy could be so nonchalant about the situation at hand. Nami's voice carried a low, flirty tone as she spoke beside Luffy, expressing her appreciation for his kindness. "I appreciate you taking care of me, Captain," she said, her eyes sparkling with gratitude, "but I would like to take care of them myself." As she spoke, her thoughts turned to ways she could reward Luffy later, a mischievous smile playing on her lips. Feeling her body pressed against his, Luffy's arm went around Nami's waist. "You touched my hat, and they laughed at my nakama." Your crew will wake up after an hour or so." Luffy answered with a blank expression as if daring Bellamy to attack him. Bellamy, on the other hand, continued to glare at Luffy with intense animosity, his fists clenching and unclenching with each passing moment of silence. "Zoro, Nami. We are leaving," Luffy ordered. His swordsman stood up with a grin right at Bellamy's face, who had reached the boiling point. "I will kill you," Bellamy roared, launching himself at Luffy, knowing that because of his devil fruit, he was faster than Luffy, even if Luffy's bounty was 20 million berries higher. From such a close distance, Bellamy knew he would take him off guard. With a knife hidden in his pocket, he knew he would kill this captain. With a clenched fist, Luffy took a step forward and delivered a powerful blow to Bellamy's face, causing a resounding crack that reverberated through the entire bar. The force of the impact was so great that his body crashed against the hard wooden floor with a sickening thud. Bellamy's left cheek was now a bloody mess, with shattered bones jutting out at odd angles, his skin torn and bleeding profusely from several places. His nose was also shattered, leaving him gasping for breath before losing consciousness. Nami's lips curled into a mischievous smile as she let out an impressive whistle, her eyes transfixed on the scene before her. She had seen her captain's strength in action countless times before, yet every time he showcased his immense power, it never failed to leave her awestruck and weak on her knees. "You ruined the bar," the bartender exclaimed, pointing at the unmoving body of Bellamy, who had crashed into the wooden floor. Luffy tilted his head before turning to Nami, who understood what he meant despite not liking it. 1 million should be enough, Nami said, tossing the coin to him with a flick of her wrist. The bartender's eyes widened in surprise as he deftly caught the gold coin midair, the metal warming in his palm. "Outside, I heard you caused quite a commotion." Luffy turned to face Teach, who sat perched on the ground in the middle of the bustling street with his legs crisscrossed beneath him. To Luffy's surprise, 100 freshly baked cherry pies were arranged in neat rows beside the notorious pirate, and it appeared that he had already devoured a staggering 9 of them. Teach's lips were stained a deep shade of purple, evidence of his voracious appetite and insatiable love for the delectable dessert. As Luffy approached, the scent of warm cherries and flaky crusts wafted through the air. "Not really, they're a bunch of children playing pirate," Luffy answered, turning to look at Teach, who grinned, his eyes almost glittering with mischievous. "Same could be said for you, Brad. You might be stronger than all the sheep that live here, but you're still far away from the ones that truly have true strength." Teach spoke, remembering the day he had first seen it with his own eyes when Whitebeard's spear and Roger's sword had clashed. The strength alone was beyond extraordinary. At that moment, he had known the truth. Anyone who was able to wield that kind of strength was the true ruler of the world. Maybe, but even the likes of Roger, Whitebeard, and many others all started with a boat and gradually reached the top. They all chased a dream, as I am. I will keep sailing until I fulfill it. Luffy answered with narrowed eyes before motioning for his crewmates to leave. "That's what I love to hear," Blackbeard exclaimed with a wide grin as he watched Luffy walk away. "Dreams, they are the essence of life, the driving force that pushes us to achieve what we thought was impossible. Remember that people might say that dreams have ended, but trust me when I say this, a man's dream never dies." As Blackbeard spoke, the people passing by laughed at his words, dismissing them as the ramblings of a madman. But Teach didn't bother with them. He knew the truth behind his words. As Blackbeard stood up from the ground, with a flick of his wrist, he grabbed the bottle of wine and pulled out the cork using only his teeth. He took a long swig from the bottle, savoring the rich, complex vintage flavors. "Don't let me take more of your time," he said, his deep voice booming through the street. With a devilish grin, he let out a booming laugh that echoed, sending shivers down the spines of those around him. "Zee-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha," he bellowed, his eyes glinting with mischief as he turned and strode away, his imposing figure causing many to back away in fear, as he disappeared into the shadows. As Teach walked away, his footsteps fading into the distance, Nami turned to her captain and wrinkled her nose in a show of distaste. She couldn't help but feel a sense of unease when in the presence of the man. There was something about him that seemed off. With a questioning glance, she turned to her captain and voiced her concerns. "He's strange," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you think he might know something about Sky Island?" Who knows, and is not him, Luffy corrected. What then? I don't know them, probably, Zoro added, later. They walk up to see Usopp on the floor pretending to be dead and Chopper in guard point. Oh, welcome back, Robin. Nami, would you like to eat first, or shall I prepare your bath? Sanji asks them with hard eyes towards the beautiful woman. Oh, Robin, did you go somewhere? Usopp asked her as he rested on the railing of the main deck. Yeah, I got some clothes and information about Sky Island. Robin informed them with one of her beautiful smiles as she boarded the ship. Luffy had to admit that Robin was stunning to look at, but he still held the feeling there was something off about her innocent smile. That's right, this all happened because you started talking about that Sky Island. Nami rages at them. And Chopper jumps overboard in fright. If it doesn't exist, I'll send you to a watery grave. Zoro jumps after Chopper as Nami places the bags on the floor. Here, Captain. Robin says as she hands over the island's map. Oh, it's a treasure map, Luffy exclaims, and he unfolds the map getting a look. Isn't it just an ordinary map? Where is it? Usopp asks as he looks over Luffy's shoulder. It's this island, Nami answers them. The town drawn on the left is Monktown, where we are now. And you see an X on the other side, right? I heard that a man who doesn't blend in Jaya lives there, Robin said, with her innocent smile. Doesn't blend in? They all asked with furrowed brows. His name is Mont Blanc Cricket. A man who talked about dreams and was driven out of this town. You might have something in common to discuss. Entered the storage room to put her things in her room. Then, why don't we try going there? Luffy asked as he folded the map, looking at Nami. Hey, wait a sec, Luffy. I'm not sure if we should go now because, it's quite dangerous, he pointed out with an uneasy smile. What happened in town? Vivi asked. As Zoro explained everything to the crew, Luffy couldn't help but feel an increasing heat in the air. The island they had docked on was a tropical island. The heat wasn't anything new, but Luffy could feel it in his bones. The heat was increasing, and it wasn't natural. The sun beat down on them relentlessly, and the heat was palpable, but something about it felt off. The air was thick and heavy, and Luffy couldn't shake the feeling that the heat was intensifying by the second, as if it was being generated by an unknown source. Luffy suddenly felt a shudder in his entire body, as if things would soon go downhill. Later they sail around the island, close enough to the shore not to sail away, when they come across another ship that looks awfully familiar to the Masira pirates. Didn't take long for us to come across something weird. But it doesn't look like the same guys from before. Usopp. Luffy questions and Vivi walks down the steps. Well, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is another story, Sanji remarks. In any case, we did see them, right? Usopp asks the cowering reindeer behind him. Yeah. As we thought, that salvager is from this island. We saw his ship coming back, Chopper replies. I see. But I don't mind seeing him again. Luffy comments, as his face turns into a serious one. Hey, you guys, quit mumbling over there, a voice shouts from the ship. Honestly, I got all worked up wondering who you guys were. That's quite a reckless face you got. What species are you? Luffy asked as he walked up in front of the main deck. And Vivi looked over to see the crew all in diving suits with a man behind them in green. I'm human, you moron. He shouts back at him. You punks, don't you know Shoujo? He's the big boss of the Shoujo pirates and the king of underwater search. One of the monkey men shouts. Don't make our big boss angry, another one warns them. Now. Looks like you're pirates. Did you know that Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, was killed? When you consider my abilities, that post may come to me. So I've been getting all worked up waiting to be contacted. He boasted before laughing. His words held no weight to the Straw Hat crew. I see. Then you want to become one of the 7 warlords of the sea? Luffy asked as his eyes were scanning the crew. Well, in any case, the great part about me is that I haven't had my hair cut in all my 25 years of life. Now, aren't you surprised? Shoujo asked with a wide grin. Is that something you should be proud of? I'm surprised you don't trip on your feet every time you take a step. Nami asked as she tilted her head to the side. Sounds stupid, Luffy replies honestly. Whoa, I'm surprised, Shoujo exclaims. Hey, watch your mouth, his subordinates snap at them. Now, what you say really gets me all worked up. Listen, You will come out of the tunnel that is my anger, a sea of blood. He threatens them. Okay, whatever. But there's a place we want to go. So move aside, Luffy orders him. Idiot. This area is my turf. If you want to pass through, pay the toll, Shoujo shouted with a greedy look. Oh, hell no, you're not touching any of my money. Nami shouted with shark teeth while the rest of the crew had the same thought on their heads, except for Sanji. Isn't that the crew's money and not your money? What's he mean by his turf? He's talking like Masira. Usopp remarks, and Vivi nod in agreement. Huh? Did Masira say stuff like that? Luffy asked his crew, his eyes still fixated on the weird-looking guy. What? Masira? What about Masira? Shoujo shouted the moment he heard the name being mentioned, and Vivi just had a feeling Luffy was going to answer honestly again, and it was going to get them into trouble. We kicked him off our boat, but… Luffy tries to answer, but Shoujo cuts him off in his anger. Kicked. Shoujo shouts in surprise. Big boss. His men shout in worry for their captain. Kicked? How dare you do that to my brother? This is revenge for Masira? Hey, hold on a sec. We kicked him, but he's still alive. Luffy tries to stop him, but it doesn't do anything as he gets a microphone. Sound waves. Havoc sonar. Shoujo shouts and breathes before yelling into the microphone, creating sound waves ripping up their ship. You bastard! Luffy shouted before sending a blast of Conqueror's haki that spread for hundreds of meters. The enemy crew went silent before they all fell unconscious one by one. But it wasn't just the enemy crew. Usopp was barely conscious, and Chopper had fallen unconscious. Nami had to admit this was one of her captain's strongest waves of haki. Even she started sweating. Her head was a little dizzy. I'm sorry, guys, someone should wake Chopper up. We are continuing to our destination. Luffy ordered, pointing at the unconscious doctor. Usopp quickly dropped a bucket of water on Chopper's face, waking him up immediately as he was startled by the water. Later Vivi walks out on deck to see Usopp hammering away, trying to fix their poor ship with some help from Zoro and Luffy. Seriously. Usopp mutters as he sits at the side with Chopper happily helping him. This ship has really started to fall apart. Maybe it's about time to replace it, Zoro questions, absent-minded, upsetting their resident sniper. Don't you dare start saying inconsiderate things, too? Usopp shrieks at the swordsman. Don't you dare, Chopper joins in, both of them making funny faces toward them. You know exactly how we got this ship, right? He yells, stopping his work. Right? The little reindeer adds, which makes Nami and Vivi giggle at the cuteness. I know, Usopp. Complaining won't get us anywhere, Luffy assures him, stopping his work and looking over at them. Going merry is an important part of the team. Even if we do need to replace it, Luffy thought grimly. While the ship was good and had done an excellent job so far, Luffy knew the ship was nowhere strong enough for the rest of the journey. He wanted new members, and the ship had only one more free room. You know exactly. Chopper exclaims, making silly faces and making the girls laugh. You. So let's work hard and repair the ship, their captain tells him. How, their doctor keeps going. Luffy. You're such a… Usopp begins to tear up, but being Luffy, he ruins the moment when he breaks the side with one hit of the hammer. Whoops, Luffy mutters in surprise. You idiot, the sniper screams in horror. Are you repairing the ship or wrecking it? Well, I'm really trying to fix it, but… He argues weakly, smacking more of it down. Whoops, it got broke again. Luffy, Chopper and Usopp scream at the captain. We left Mock Town and headed east by circling around the island. We're almost here on the map. That man. What's his name again? Nami asks, turning to face Robin, as she gazes at the sea around their ship. Mont Blanc Cricket, Robin answers. So that man who talks of dreams lives there, huh? Vivi questions, pointing ahead as they get closer to land and come across a bizarre-looking castle that looks beyond fake. Amazing! The two dummies exclaim in shock. That's more fake than Usopp's lies. Luffy exclaimed with a deadpan look. I never lie, Usopp exclaimed back at his captain. Why? Chopper questions as Luffy jumps off the ship, landing on the green field in front of them, before running around to the side to see, as they move the Going Merry closer to the shore, seeing the longboard cut out of the palace that hides the smaller house that seems to be cut in half. He seems like a very cheap guy, Sanji comments. What kind of dreams did he talk about riven out? Nami asked their newest member. I don't know the details, but I heard that he said a huge amount of gold rests in Jaya. Robin revealed as she had a deep look as if she was remembering something from a long time ago. Gold? Usopp gasped in shock. Is that some pirate's buried treasure or something? The money-hungry navigator questions with berry eyes. Well, I don't know, Robin replied casually, but it was enough for Nami to squeal in delight and jump over with Chopper, who jumped out of Vivi's arms to help the treasure-obsessed navigator. Gold. Nami cheers. Dig the ground, Chopper, gold will appear. It will if I dig? Chopper questions as he blindly follows her instructions, and the rest of them start to explore. Living alone in such a remote area? Sanji questions as he walks over to a tree trunk. Well, no one is inside the house, Luffy said, as his eyes were focused towards a certain point of the sea. This is. Nami questions as she looks down at the tree trunk. And Vivi walk over to see her pick up a book. A picture book? This is quite an old book. It's titled, Noland the Liar. Wow, that's a cool title. Nice idea for a book. Usopp compliments as he walks over, and Vivi sits on one of the smaller trunks that seems to make a little table and chairs. Noland the Liar? Sanji repeats, with a melancholy look on his face. A flash of a boy behind bars passed before Sanji's eyes like lightning, but he quickly ignored it. You will never meet them, not even Reiju, he thought, taking a deep breath to calm himself. Sanji's unusual response was something Luffy noticed right away but didn't comment on it for now. You know it, Sanji, but it says it was published in the North Blue. She argues, looking at the chef, now looking at the sky towards north. Yeah, I was born in the North Blue, their cook reveals. Haven't I told you guys? He asked, turning to look at them. That's news. I thought you were from the east, too, Usopp remarks. I grew up there, he answers, quick and sharp. Robin had a slight smirk on her face, which was very well hidden, but Luffy knew there was more to that smirk. He knew Robin had information, but he wondered just how much information she held. Quiet, Chopper. What are you doing? Nami scolds the reindeer. What? Chopper exclaims and reverts to his cuter version. Ko! He cries and runs towards Vivi, jumping into her lap. It's okay, Chopper, don't listen to the mean girl, Vivi cooed, running her fingers through his fur, soothing him. This is a famous story in the north. It's a fairy tale, but I've heard that this Noland guy actually existed long ago. Sanji explains, and Nami begins to read the story. This is a story from long, long ago. A story that took place 400 years ago. A man named Mont Blanc Noland lived in a North Blue country. Noland, an explorer, always talked about his incredible adventures. However, the villagers couldn't tell if those stories were true or not. One day, he reported to the king after returning from his travels. I saw a mountain of gold on an island in the Great Sea. The courageous king set sail to the Great Sea to see if the story was true, taking 2,000 soldiers along with him. After surviving great storms and battling against monsters, only the king, Noland, and 100 soldiers made it to the island. However, what they found there was just a jungle. In the end, he was sentenced to death for the crime of lying. Noland's last words were as follows, that's right. The mountain of gold sank in the sea. The king and the others were dumbfounded. No one believed Noland any longer because Noland continued to lie until his very death. This book is based on the North Blue fairy tale. Noland the Liar. Alas, the lair died. Nami finishes the story and closes the book, taking a deep breath and signing dramatically. Before he could even become a brave warrior of the sea. She looks at Usopp, who finally gets a little jab toward him. Don't look at me, and don't add in a heartbreaking sentence on your own, Usopp shouts at her, pointing a finger, and there's a sudden splash. A man jumps out of the water. Who the hell are you? The man demands as he makes his way out of the water. You've got guts relaxing at someone's house without permission. The sea in this area is my turf, he warns them, getting into a fighting stance. Luffy raised an eyebrow. Seriously, why did people like to talk in such weird ways? You're after the gold, aren't you? Die, the blonde snaps, swinging a kick towards her head, but Vivi ducks down, punching his side, making him groan, clutching his side, bending over a little. Still, it doesn't stop him from trying to punch the princess. But Vivi grabs his arm and pulls him over her shoulder, and he lands on the ground with a grunt of pain and seems to have fallen unconscious too quickly. Sanji and Zoro walked over to see the man. He seemed to be in more pain than he should be for their minor altercation. Vivi crouched down to get a better look and saw he looked whiter than before. Later, bring more cold towels. Open up the windows, Chopper orders, getting into doctor mode, making the other dummies comply. Luffy tying the makeshift curtains to let more air into the cozy little hut. Kaisen disease? Zoro questions after the little doctor's explanation. Is this contagious? Luffy asks with narrowed eyes. He didn't want another sick member on his crew. Yeah, it's a sickness that divers sometimes get, but it doesn't usually become a long-standing condition. Due to a lack of decompression when surfacing from the seabed, the nitrogen dissolved in the blood gets released quickly and forms gas bubbles at that time. Since the gas bubbles explain inside and outside of blood vessels, they cause problems to blood flow, muscle, and joints. Chopper explains some more, though it seems to be over someone's head. He probably kept diving every day without giving time for those bubbles to disappear from the body, he explained further. Whatever for? Vivi questioned, leaning against the wall by a picture frame. I don't know, but he's taking a risk. In some cases, Kaisen disease can cause death, Chopper reveals, and the air is thick with tension, but it soon changes as they see two familiar faces trying to get inside the small hut. Old timer, are you all right? The monkey men shout, spooking two of the cowardly trio. They've come to kill us, Usopp shrieks as he and Chopper rush around. Luffy wondered if another blast of haki would get the job done. What are you guys doing here? Shoujo demands, pointing fingers at the pirates. What did you do to the old timer? Masira demands with clenched teeth. What? We're looking after this guy right now, so go somewhere else. Luffy tells the two monkey men with a shush motion. Idiot, they aren't really going to hear us out, Usopp shrieks. They're savages, you know. You know, Chopper repeats. Everyone, evacuate through the windows. You. Masira and Shoujo begin to cry. Guys are so nice, they tear up, weeping, making the shrieking scaredy cats fall to the floor in surprise. Marshal D teach, Captain. Why are we leaving? Burgess asked as they walked through the crowded streets of Mocktown. Apparently, the Straw Hat brat wasn't lying. His bounty is indeed 356 million bounties. Teach answers with a wide grin, 3 of his teeth missing. A part of him really wished he could have taken the chance and defeated him, bringing him to the Marines and earning the title of warlord. So, we are going after him? Van Augur asked as he was holding his long gun over his shoulder. Augur is a rather thin man with light brown hair that hangs down to his lower neck. He is extremely tall, standing around the same height as Blackbeard, over 11 feet tall. The left lens of the black glasses he wears is a normal, rectangular eyepiece, but the right side is circular and holds what appears to be a crosshair. He sports a large black hat protruding out to both sides. Its shape bears an uncanny resemblance to an upturned boat's airing a long black cape, under which he wears a button-up, pale lavender shirt with loose sleeves and simple black pants, with a maroon belt with an aqua outline that goes over a small portion of his shirt. He also wears black shoes. Due to the size of his rifle Senriku, he carries it leaning against his shoulder. Nah, we are leaving, Blackbeard answered right away. Why? Ben asked with an emotionless face. Unless you want to bathe in lava, we are done here. By tomorrow morning, this whole town will be in flames. How do you know that? Doc asked. Blackbeard grinned widely before answering. Let's just say I heard a little bird talk.